Mr. Bowen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the room got quiet. You can still talk until Bob says we have to be quiet. Are you good? All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. We opened the meeting tonight at 6 p.m. as we had an executive session earlier to discuss union and some other litigation with Mr. Bowen that we can't discuss in public. Mr. Barros was here to witness the proper opening of the meeting.
And we got the thumbs up, right, Mr. Barros?
I got the thumbs up. Okay, so let's move right into announcements.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I have two announcements this evening. We have the Wareham Coffee Hour Thursday morning at 9 a.m. right here at the Multi-Service Center, room 225. This week's guest will be candidate for one of the 3-year Selectmen terms, Patrick Tropiano. So join him 9 a.m. Thursday right here in room 225. Thank you, Mr. White, for hosting these informative sessions. The Onset Protective League presents Candidates Night Thursday, March 21st, 2013 at the Dudley Brown VFW post on Onset Ave, 7 p.m. Refreshments will be served. This year's OPL will not be shown live. It will be filmed, so if you want to see the action unfold on Thursday night, be there. 7 p.m., Onset VFW. Mr. Teitelbaum, do you have an announcement?
I do not, thank you.
Mr. Slavin?
No.
Mr. Chairman?
Wow.
Nothing?
No.
Okay, so now you're up to citizens' participation.
Anyone like to address the board this evening? Mr. Barros?
I don't know. Excuse me. My name is Gerald Barrows, and I know I'm bringing it up again. But why don't they a disability have a meeting? I had to ask. I've asked this over a month ago. They never have it, and I know that. Excuse me. Let me finish. I know that maybe the one Jim Newman. I know he's maybe sick and all that, but. Don't they have a vice president or something that they can have meetings? And I know they had people that got on the committee, and yet you don't have nothing. And I went to one, and I really liked it. What went on? But I still like to know more about it. I don't know too much about it, but I still would like to.
Sure. I spoke with Jim on Thursday and asked him to send a notice out to the members. You know, he's had some difficulties coming at night like he used to come on Tuesday nights. But I believe he said that the meetings were going to be on the first Tuesday of the month. But I asked him to send a notice to the members so they can start having regular meetings. So I did see him on Thursday and asked him about it.
Okay.
Okay?
I appreciate it.
And I'll make sure I follow up with him
I
to
went
make
to
sure.
the first
Because
one
we
that
just
I
got another
went
new
to.
member. Your boy is on
Yeah,
the...
my son has got on it.
And there was a young man the other night who came in, Don, I can't remember his name. So they have several members.
Yeah.
And there was a lady we put on there, too, not too long ago.
Yes, it was. And,
Yeah, they should have plenty of members to have a meeting now.
and I'm not requesting this just because my son is on it.
Oh, no, I understand that. No.
Okay.
No, it's an important committee. But Jim, and for those who are wondering, Jim did look good when I spoke with him. Next, sir. You speak very close to that mic, if you would.
Good evening. My name's Tom McManus from Onset, and I have a couple of questions. I'd like to know when the public hearing was held for the alteration of premises for the Stonebridge Bistro. The reason I asked that is the Stonebridge Bistro, the alterations of the Stonebridge Bistro.
When were they held?
Right. Let me refresh your memory. The owner of the bistro withdrew the deck from his last public hearing on your February 21st meeting of 2012. There hasn't been another one scheduled. So it wasn't really a trick question. I just wanted to know if there was something going on that I didn't know about.
Now, the other thing I recall was back. Was it February or September?
Yeah, it was February the 12th. I had brought a copy of the newspaper
Yeah, but that
clipping,
was for the inside of the building.
He was doing both at the same time, and what he did on the 12th was he withdrew the deck.
Right.
So the public hearing basically ended with them withdrawing the deck, and he continued with the alterations on the inside. So he really didn't have any reason to have the public hearing any longer for the alteration of premises.
Right.
So I guess my question, has another one been scheduled? Or
They
do you
haven't
have a-
requested
Okay.
the liquor license be expanded
Okay,
to that. They went to the zoning board, and we had to write a letter
right.
back in September-ish.
That was
end of
about the
September.
consent. That was about the consent decree.
Right.
Exactly.
That was one of the conditions that were presented to us
Exactly.
by the zoning
Exactly.
group.
The reason that I ask is, if you're not aware, the construction has begun.
September 24th, Tom.
Okay, that was
when we wrote that letter to Mr. Cornish
right.
at the request of the zoning.
Right,
group.
that would protect the town's interest regarding the onset consent decree. But the alteration of premise is a different issue. So does not have a meeting scheduled, but the work has commenced. And the reason why I think that this is an issue for the Board of Selectmen is that, and I went to the inspectional services people this weekend, and I spoke to Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah.
There are two policies or procedures, one's a policy, one's a procedure, that work on a licensed premise cannot start or even be permitted without the permission of the Board of Selectmen. One of those is in the off the town website on how to obtain a building permit for I have it with me, but a licensed premise has to be
Right.
receive permission. And in your liquor policies, which were published and vetted in January of this year, under premises, it also says that no renovations can commence without the permission of the Board of Selectmen. So, since he has no public hearing scheduled, my opinion is that he's violated the liquor policy. And when I asked the head of inspectional services where the permission was, he wasn't even familiar with the policy that required your approval. When I pointed it out to him and asked him to issue a stop work order, he wouldn't. He had asked me to submit my concerns to him in writing, which I did on Friday, and CC'd Mr. Sullivan, who's been very nice to me. And
He's a good guy.
yeah, not too bad. Baby hasn't changed him too much. And
But that might be making him a little softer, you know.
well,
Mention Nora, he gets all red in the face and just kind of.
I'm working on him. I can use a softie. But I have not received any response till just before I left for this meeting. So
All right.
I think that
I got to be careful because it's not an agenda item.
I understand.
So I'm going to ask Rich to talk with Derek. You've talked to Derek.
Well, can I? The point of
Oh, you can
yes,
continue,
I
sure.
did. But when I mailed my concerns to when I originally talked to the head of inspectional services, he said, when I pointed the policy out to him, that's in his website, he said that he didn't understand how that could be a legal qualification. I said, well, it's in there. We didn't make that up.
I think.
And so let me finish.
Yeah,
I
sure.
called him late. I called him later in the afternoon, and he said he wanted to look into it. I called him later in the afternoon, and he says he wasn't able to find anything. And I says, well, here's the liquor policy, and it says it clearly in the liquor policy. So that's when he asked me to put it in writing, and he said that his intent was to send it to the town council, who was
okay.
out of the country, and he had hoped that he would respond. Correct? Correct. So, having not gotten a response, I didn't feel that there was an alternative except to come here and bring it forth to you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. I think Rich will, now that he's back in the country, as you can see,
He did bring me a
he will get caught up and issue something of a ruling. My understanding, not being a lawyer, was that that building is a mixed-use building. It's not just a bar. He has apartments there, and he has a marina there, and he has all kinds of things going on in that building. So I mean, all I know is that the zoning board, when they applied for this deck, and you were actively involved with that, right? And it was kind of strange that the zoning board would ask the Board of Selectmen to even be part of the ruling, because
Unheard of, someone said.
right. I think that was your email. It said this is unheard of.
That was this one right here.
Yeah, the applicant will obtain a letter from the Board of Selectmen stating that the interest of the town in relation to the Onset Bay 1916 decree or other such judgments shall not be infringed upon. And then we sent that letter on the 24th saying, as you may recall, the Board of Appeals issued a special permit to Stonebridge Bistro concerning the construction of a deck. The decision contains several conditions, one of which concerns the Board of Selectmen. Condition 5 provides as follows: applicant will obtain a letter from the Board of Selectmen stating that the interests of the town in relation to the Onset Bay 1916 decree or other such judgments shall not be infringed upon. The plain language on Condition 5 requires only that Stonebridge obtain a letter from the board in which the board, in effect, warned Stonebridge not to infringe upon the 1916 decree or other pertinent judgments. The condition does not ask the board to make a determination as to whether the 1916 decree or other judgments are being infringed upon the activities that are subject to the special permit. Therefore, in accordance with Condition 5, the Board of Selectmen hereby advises you, and you, I'm sorry, this letter was to John Cornish,
Right, no, I'm familiar with it.
advises you that you should not act in any fashion that infringes upon the interests of the town in relation to the Onset Bay 1916 decree or other related judgments. Please be advised that the town reserves all rights should Stonebridge ever act in a manner that violates pertinent decrees and judgments. And that was from the board, September 24th.
Right, no, I'm familiar with that.
So-
And, while the consent decree is still an issue as far as we're concerned, that is a separate issue. I found that document that I was referring to. It's the steps in obtaining a commercial building permit. And number 14 says no building permit will be issued to any establishment holding a liquor license until plans have been submitted and approved by the Selectman's office. So, we didn't make this stuff up. According to...
No, nobody's saying
No,
you're making anything
I'm
up.
sorry, it's a turn of phrase, but I couldn't see why, when I had this discussion, and my righteous indignation on this, was that why, if the permit was issued, why a stop work order, now that they became aware of it, was now, why was the building permit shouldn't have been issued? Because he has not brought the plans to you for approval.
Yeah, we're getting very close here to, I don't need a violation of open meeting law here.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman.
This should be this should be an agenda item.
Bef-
Or you gentlemen really should be dealing with this outside of here.
Well, I think on Friday, I have office hours scheduled. What I'll do is I'll sit down with Mr. Sullivan. If Mr. Moore is in that day, I'll sit down with him. You've given all the documents to Derek and to Mr. Moore. I'll go through them, and maybe we can digest them a little bit, and after that, report back to you on what
Okay.
sort of step
And
you want to
Derek,
take next.
if you wouldn't mind getting back to Mr.
McManus.
McManus on that as well.
All right, but I'm concerned that in the meantime, the work is going on. He's got serious digging and concrete forms down there. This is still an issue for us on the consent decree, even though that's a separate issue. If you recall, Stevie B's did this to the Board of Selectmen previously, that they built that outside deck to you and then presented it to you when it was done. We don't want that to happen in this case.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and with your stated desire to keep within the citizens' participation realm, I will just say that if somebody is taking illegal actions, they're doing it at their own peril.
Okay, well, you've been...
But that's as far as I think we can go with
Right,
it.
no, I understand that, and I guess if the building permit issue, and if you look again at the liquor license under the Section 105, Paragraph A, he's also supposed to do it too, and you vetted those well and advised everybody that they shouldn't be taking action unless you know about it. So you have a potential liquor law license violation on your plate. So I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for
sir.
listening to me.
Anyone else like to speak before the board this evening? Okay. Next up.
Next up, Mr. Chairman, we have the consent agenda. We have authorization to sign bills and documents. We have no bills or documents. And then we have an appointment/interview of Council on Aging Board of Directors and Wareham Cultural Council. We have the same applicant for both, Judith McGrath. Hi. Come on up.
Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, you got a soft voice. You got to
Hi.
get right on top of that thing.
I will.
If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the people and explain your interest in becoming a committee member.
I've lived in Wareham for approximately 30 years, raised my kids here. I'm an RN. I've worked as a director of nursing, dealing mainly with the elderly. And currently I work with a company that is involved with the adult foster care program and helping individuals get access to that. I've never worked in Wareham until recently, so I've always worked at least an hour away.
Oh,
and
wow.
I've never had the time to be more involved in the town. Currently I'm working on Main Street, and now I have the ability, and my kids are grown, to be more involved, and I would chose those two programs because I thought I would be best suited to them.
Is that the new? I saw a story about you in the paper.
Yep, the
Was that
caregiver
you?
homes. That's
Oh,
me.
Congratulations. And
Thank
good
you
luck.
very much.
Good luck.
It's a very good program.
Where did you work?
I worked in
as a
Norton
nurse?
as
Oh,
a
you did?
director of nursing, and prior to that I worked in Hyannis. So an hour each
Oh,
way.
my God. Did you work at Cape Cod?
No,
Hospital?
it was a nursing home,
Oh, wow.
the Pavilion.
Outstanding. Mr. Titlebaum, questions? please.
Thank you for your application. Have you been able to attend any of the meetings of any of these bodies you're interested in?
Yes, there has only been one meeting so far, and I did attend the Council on Aging meeting and got to meet the members, and very impressed with them, and I think they liked me, so I'm hopeful.
Well, and one other question. Are you looking to be appointed to all three, or are you looking to do one at a
Two
time
anyway.
here?
I think I would be able to do certainly at least one, and Council on Aging, certainly a good choice there. I do believe I could give my time and energy and efforts to two committees, seeing as they meet once a month, and I also volunteered my services to work as a volunteer for the DayHab program.
Okay, I was actually thinking of trying to steer you towards the Council on Aging. I know that they've had some quorum issues lately,
Exactly.
and so the sooner we can stock that committee, the sooner they can actually have meetings when they show up. So, thank you.
Mr. Slavin. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought you were thanking me.
All set?
Oh, no, you're not all set yet.
Oh,
Come
I
on
thought
now.
I was done.
You still have to go through Mrs. Winslow.
Hi, Mrs. Winslow.
Yes.
Did Mr. Slavin have any?
Yes, he's all set.
Oh. Ever since we altered the application, my famous question is asked and answered before you even get to sit in front of us. But I think it's great. The Cultural Council is always looking for input, and they're such a vibrant, lively group of people who have such great vision for the community. So. And I definitely think you'd be a good fit there. And I also think that you bring a lot of value to the Council on Aging Board of Directors. So I appreciate your willingness.
I'm really excited to do some more to give back to the town. They've done a lot for me.
Great. And just for the record, so everybody knows, she is a U.S. citizen. We already know that, though, because we ask it on the application.
Yes. And a voter.
Good. Mr. Holmes?
And now, I'd just like to thank you for your participation. I know that Mrs. McDonald and others on the Council on Aging are anxious, and I think they'll really enjoy your contribution and participation. So, thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm
Well,
like I
good luck
said,
on your business.
Thank you.
If there's anything that we can do or Mr. Sullivan can do to help you, you just let us know.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Winslow?
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Judith A. McGrath to a member of the Council on Aging Board of Directors to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
Which one of them seconded, Mr. Holmes? Mr. Titlebaum seconded?
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Second committee?
And
Sorry?
there's a second committee. Yep. I move to approve Judith A. McGrath as a member to the Wareham Cultural Council to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Slavin. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400. Congratulations. If you would, make sure you stop by the town clerk's office so that she can swear you in. All right? Thank you very much. Mrs. Winslow.
Next up is the discussion of citizens petition warrant articles. We have 2 citizen petition articles on the warrant this year.
Right. I see Mrs. Heath. If you'd like to come up, please. We actually did get you in this week. I know that we weren't sure which way we were going,
When
but
she called and told me that, I actually said, "Are you sure it's this week?"
Yeah.
Because he said, "Not this week."
no.
So,
Well, because we're trying to, I told you we were trying to get them done. And so rather than put it off a week, we'll get it done this week.
just for the record, Mrs. Heath is here. She is the proponent for Article 31, which is a citizens petition and act providing for sewer commissioners in the town of Wareham.
I'm Dorothy Heath. I'm from District 2, and
Sharon, yeah, if you would speak right into that.
Sharon Gomes, contract 2.
Mrs. Heath?
we are proposing an article that warrant article and act providing for sewer commissioners in the town of Wareham. You have the article before you. Would you like an explanation of why I've proposed it, or would you rather just have me answer?
Yeah, why don't you do it that way? Explain the article in the reasoning.
Okay.
And
The
then,
article-
we'll ask if the members have questions, they can ask you at
Okay.
that point.
The article provides for, just as a summary, for a board of sewer commissioners who would be in charge of all things in water pollution control. There would be 5 appointees, elected officials, 3 of which would be sewer users, and 1 of which should be a non-sewer user. That leaves the 5th one to be either or. That way, there are people from both sides of the fence, so to speak, that are taking care of the all things considered water pollution control. The reason that we've proposed this article is really twofold. First of all, it was voted on, a similar article, during the 2000 town meeting, and because there was never any follow-through on the article, there were some issues on how wording difficulties. By the time it was discovered that this was the problem, that it hadn't gone through the regular chain, and the wording issues was settled, the state legislature declared that it was stale. It was brought back again in last October, and because it hadn't been presented people felt that it hadn't been presented early enough for them to give it a good reading through and to contemplate everything, it was tabled. By tabling it without setting up a board to go further with it, by parliamentary procedure, the issue was killed. So I feel the town, since they voted it in 2010, it shouldn't be killed by parliamentary procedure. They should have a right to decide whether or not they want to do this. Second of all, I feel that the selectmen have enough issues in town to take care of, and that to have a group of 5 people whose only focus would be water pollution control, which is a very complicated issue and isn't going to get any simpler as time goes on, would be a good thing for the town of Wareham. And that's up for the voters at town meeting to decide.
Right. Mr. Titlebaum, question.
I did support the original article in 2010 that did pass town meeting, providing for a separate Board of Sewer Commissioners. I think I have changed my mind in terms of whether I would support that this time around. I'm not going to get into too many specifics as to why I wouldn't support it again. But I think that this board, over the past year since I've been on it, has shown a reasonable grasp of the sewer issues. Are there some things that we need to address going forward? Yes. Do I think the EDU rate, for example, needs to be addressed? Absolutely. Do I think there are issues surrounding the agreement we have with the DEP, and should that be revisited? Yes. I think there are a lot of things on the table that have to be done. But every time, and I've been guilty of this as well, we look to new solutions for old problems. But every time we do, we assume that there's some level of expertise out there, that we're going to stock a board like this with engineers, or we're going to get people who specialize in wastewater to step up to the plate and do these things. And it just seems to me that it's going to be difficult, as admirable as the goal is, to put together a board that has a lot of experience in these matters. I just think it's going to be difficult to find those people. So that's my concern here.
Are you concerned they wouldn't have your level of expertise?
Well, as an environmental lawyer, I think I set a little bit of a bar. Am I concerned that they wouldn't have the Board of Selectmen's level of expertise? Possibly. Am I concerned that we're not going to find physical engineers, that we're not going to find the kinds of people whose credentials are absolutely solid gold? Yes, I am concerned about that.
Do you think the voters should have been concerned when you were elected as a selectman, that as one of your selectman's duties, you were supposed to be an overseer of the budget, that you didn't have a financial degree?
No, let's.
I'm just saying, he's saying,
Let's stick to the in shortening it up.
he's saying the reason why
Not a debate.
you
It's
don't
a
want,
discussion.
you don't support this is because you're not sure the people would be experts on the issue. They only focus they would have would be water pollution control, and as that focus, it would be their job to make themselves experts on the issue, just as you have done and the other selectmen have done for
Mr.
various
Slavin.
issues.
Fair enough.
Mr. Slavin.
Well, since I was involved from the beginning, I think I wrote the original article in 2010. Unfortunately, wrote the article last fall, and we had some discussion with time frame, etc. This is just basically coming back again with the same piece, which, as far as I'm concerned, is something that I thought should be done twice before, so I'm certainly not going to change my mind. And I thank you for bringing it forward.
Mrs. Winslow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Overall, I think the idea of sewer commissioners is a good idea, and I support the concept. However, since the concept impacts me, I'm probably not gonna, say, "Oh, I think this is awful," or "Oh, I think this is really wonderful." It's my job in this role to look out for the community as a whole, and I do have one concern about how the article's written. So I'd want to address that because I think if I bring it up, and I know it's a concern for other people, I think if we bring it up now, we can talk about it and make sure that we have all our information in advance. The concern I have is that the sewer superintendent and the Board of Sewer Commissioners is given full power over the running of the plant, including employee and personnel matters. However, even though the sewer superintendent would have the right to hire and fire with the blessing of the sewer commissioners, if there's an issue that comes up, say a lawsuit over a termination, the town ultimately becomes the responsible party. Do you see what I'm saying?
Do the department heads in the town have the right to hire and fire their employees?
No, ma'am, they do not.
They don't. So any employee that's hired, let's say, as a maintenance worker, has to be approved by you first?
No. What happens on the town side is when a department head wants to make a hiring, they make the recommendation to the town administrator, and then the Board of Selectmen is given a notice, and we have 15 days to vote on it. If we don't, similar to what you have here, if we don't vote, it just becomes, a moot point. The person's hired. My concern with things not flowing through the town administrator is that the town administrator, outside of the school committee, like, for example, the Board of Assessors, they don't have an exclusive right to hire and fire or to deal with, hiring and firing issues within that department. They can make recommendations, but ultimately it flows through the town administrator. The Board of Health is also a board that, but what the town administrator has is he has a complete oversight of everything that's going on. If we have SOAR commissioners and a SOAR superintendent, let's say, for example, negotiating collective bargaining agreements, I'm just trying to make an example as to why, where the problem lies. So he has an overall view of what the goal of the town overall is between the town budget and what's available and things. So that's my one concern.
Well, the enterprise fund budget is separate from the town's budget's my understanding in any case. And second of all, if you have sewer commissioners whose only focus is the sewer, then I'm assuming, and that they have educated themselves about this, that they will know what kinds and types and what kinds of degrees and what kind of people should be hired to work at the sewer plant. And with procedures and the superintendent, they will have procedures set forth on hiring and firing of these people.
I'm just bringing to light one of my concerns, because regardless of that, at the end of the day, it's all under the umbrella of the town. And I would prefer to see everything. I don't like to separate out a department like that. I think we're all one town. If I could do it if the law didn't prevent me from doing it in the schools, I would be saying the same thing to the schools. So I just want you to be aware. I don't want to debate it or argue. I just want you to be aware of what my concern is.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question. I see the chief of police and the various departments making decisions about employees in the town. And I don't really see where this would be that much different.
But I'm trying to point out that they're not making those decisions. Those decisions are ultimately flowing through the town administrator and ultimately this board. But now we're saying this is going to flow through a superintendent and an elected board of SOAR commissioners, but yet their actions can have an impact on the town when it comes to any litigation over an employment matter. That's my only.
I take your.
I just want you to think about it. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, very good. I thought that in the original one that there were some qualifications other than flushing into a septic tank or flushing into the sewer. Were there not?
No.
For the individuals to serve?
The individuals to serve was at least 3 that were on sewer.
Right.
And 1 that was not.
That was it?
That's it.
So it's another
up to 5,
political
but it
board.
could be at least 3 and at least 1 on that. That was it.
Well, that's the only disappointing thing I have. I have no issue. I supported it last time, and I support it again. But really, you're just creating another political board that I thought that there were qualifications when Mr. Schneider spoke about this.
No, you can't, because it's elected official rather than appointed.
Too bad.
If these were appointed, then we could.
Because you could get 5 people who had no
If they
clue.
were appointed, you could say one had to be an engineer, one had to be something else.
Yeah, I thought Mike had talked about that.
I don't think you can't do that with a.
So you end up with another 5 people that are elected political board, and they don't have to have any qualifications.
It's possible.
So
I'm
fine.
hoping that,
I'm
like
hoping
I
that
said, they would
will
educate
take the time
themselves.
to learn, as we have tried to do,
Yeah.
some of us. But their focus would only be. I do share some of Mrs. Winslow's concerns, but it seems like you have this set up very similar to the superintendent here. He's almost acting like a town administrator.
He
And
reports.
then, you have issues here. I don't know. See, it does fall into the town, so I think some of these things can be flushed out. But, you know, I don't have a problem. Thank you.
Well, in any case,
And I want to be clear about something because, you know,
the town may decide that they don't want this.
I took a little whooping over this issue, and quite frankly, the Board of Selectmen had no business putting this on the warrant. We have no business doing that. First
Oh,
of
you
all,
mean last year? I'm
our
sorry, I
vote-
didn't realize what you were referring to.
Our vote tonight will ultimately be 004 because we shouldn't be voting on this. Our job, that just like we did the last time.
I thought you had to vote to put it on the warrant.
Well, that's a different story.
Okay.
You
It's
know, we
already-
vote when we do the in favor of thing. That usually ends up 004 because it's a conflict. That's why we voted not to be the ones who did what you did, because we really shouldn't do that.
No, you said at your meeting that
Right.
you couldn't really
That's
do
why-
it because if
Not
you
because we
did it,
didn't want to, or because we didn't care to do it. It really wasn't we shouldn't do it.
no, you said at your meeting the
Yeah.
night you decided not to do it that it was because it was
But
your
I
job.
think it's fine. I support I support it.
And it benefits the people
Well,
in the town. I mean, we've
you know,
seen.
I'm hoping that what'll happen is people will vote yes, and then you'll get good, because we do have several
people.
individuals in this town who, if they elected to serve, would do an outstanding job.
These people on Oakdale
These
spent a
people.
lot of, you know, the group that they were with spent a lot of time. They educated themselves on the sewers from the very
And they've
beginning.
done a good job.
So if
the
they
group.
could do it, there's no reason
Well,
to
I was
suppose.
thinking
You
that
were hoping.
I knew some engineers and things that I think would really serve, and I think that anybody from the group.
And
would-
moving forward,
would be
because I'm
well.
not here to talk about contract 2, but moving
No, you're
forward,
You're not.
and you already know the issues, and we want to
not.
move forward on it, and I'm not discussing it.
Okay.
But this issue has happened since 2002. So I mean, moving forward, it's to benefit the people. So this does not become a tax issue. It becomes a sewer issue, and only those that are involved in the sewer pay for it, because they're long-term people, taxpayers that, and if we're moving forward with the sewer, why not do it in the benefit of the people in the sewer users? Because we have so much
You're not
construction
getting
that
an argument
happened
out of me. I agree with
way
you.
back in the 70s, and if we don't keep that money separate from everything else, and in the breakage of the pipes and everything that happened in the 70s and 80s, because one day those pipes are going to have to be replaced, so why not have that money already contained into the sewer?
I agree. Okay, anything else? Thank you very much for your time and your efforts. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Is anyone here for Article 30 on the Article 30?
Mr. Mulkern's
Mr.
not here.
Mulkern, is he here?
He's not here.
He's not here?
No.
All right.
Okay, you want to move along to the next?
Well, let's take a vote on that. It's already
Oh.
been included in the warrant. 'cause we
Right.
passed the
Yeah,
warrant
I was gonna clarify that for Mrs. Heath. It's a citizens petition article, so the Board of Selectmen, it is included on the warrant, and we did close the warrant last week, so it is, as I said earlier, Article number 31.
Right.
Okay. I move favorable action on Article 31.
You have a motion made for favorable action on Article 31. Do I have a
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Slavin. Anything on the question? All in favor? Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Aye.
004. And again, the reason for that is not to be vindictive or anything. It's just that we shouldn't be voting on that.
I don't believe that
On the
we voted on
on
it in
jobs.
2010
No, it was
either.
the same vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you very much. Moving along.
Moving along, we have the approval of meeting minutes of February 26th, 2013. That would be our regular meeting minutes. I move to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Next, we have the regular meeting minutes of March 5th. I move to approve the meeting minutes of March 5th, 2013, as written.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. Question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Aye. 301.
And then we have executive session meeting minutes from February 26th. I move to approve and hold the executive session meeting minutes of February 26th as written.
Second.
Motion made and second. Question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Now we are up to the licenses and permits. So we have the renewal of the seasonal liquor licenses. Mr. Chair, do we want to take 8A out of order? Because I've noticed that everybody's
No.
just shut.
Let's just
Okay.
zip right through. These don't take long.
Okay. So we have the renewal of seasonal liquor licenses
Somebody
and
here from the lobster park? No? Okay. Go ahead.
under the provisions of Chapter 138 of Mass General Law for the year 2013, I move to approve the Common Vic Wines and Malt Beverages license issued to GYJO Inc., doing business as Lobster Pot, Joseph A. Marino III, manager, 3155 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. Question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
I move to approve the Common Vic All Alcoholic Beverages license issued to Project Half Shell Inc., doing business as Cohog Republic, Eric C. Bevins, manager, 197 Onset Ave, Onset.
Anybody here from Cohog Republic? Okay.
Second.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. Question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
I move to approve the Club All Alcoholic Beverages license issued to Point Independence Yacht Club, Inc., doing business as Point Independence Yacht Club, Dennis Langlace, manager, 15 Independence Lane, Onset.
Anyone
Second.
here from Point Independence? No?
Not seen it.
Motion made.
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 400.
Okay, we also have an application for a one-day all-alcoholic license by Bay Point Club.
Anybody here from Bay Point? Okay. Motion made.
Oh, I have to.
Oh, yeah.
I got to get the information. Yeah, it's not in a separate
I
file.
thought you had read it. My mistake.
No, it's kind of buried in here with the. I think. I don't believe we have it. Cohog. And Point Independence.
I don't have it, no.
Ah, here it is. Sorry. Okay. I move to approve a one-day. Oh no, wait, that's not a one-day. Hold on a second, Mr. Chair. This is a seasonal license for
that's
Bay
true.
Point.
That's been
That's
withdrawn.
That was withdrawn. But there's no one day.
For March
Do we have a
3rd or something.
Do we have a date?
March.
It's not in here. Can I?
Rich?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, if you wanted to make a motion, it's going to be for this Saturday. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, something like, I move to approve a Chapter 138, Section 14, one-day all alcoholic license for the Bay Point Club to be issued for Saturday, March, whatever the date is, 23rd, 2013. The license holder maintain its own liability insurance.
So moved.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. Question.
One question. We had an issue before when we had the one-day license for them. Have they basically turned in their seasonal license and it's no longer in effect?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
Anything else? Motion made, seconded, no more questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. Yeah, do we have are the applicants here? Just raise your hand for
Counsel?
council. Would you mind waiting just a few more minutes? Do you have to run? Sure. Okay. There's a couple things, we have some citizens here, if we could just, if you don't mind. Okay. Next up.
We're going to take the TIF agreement for La France Hospitality out of order.
Mr.
So on
Peter?
your agenda, it's item 8A.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I don't know, but I've been using your name a lot this week.
I hope not in vain.
Smiling Sal. I got a new nickname for you.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that's a nice one.
You're getting many compliments for some reason, and I know why, but businesses seem to like you.
Well, thank you. I
I don't
appreciate
know what
it.
that's all about, but it's a good thing.
Hopefully they're hiring Wareham
Something
residents.
new. It's something new we got going on. It's going well. Good evening. How are
Good
you?
evening. I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Would you introduce yourself to everyone watching?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Jeff Pino. I'm the CFO at La France Hospitality Company.
And
We
also,
met you, 2 weeks ago? You were sitting in the back there.
Yeah, yes, about that time frame.
You cringed a couple of times when they were giving money away, right? Yeah. I remember
I
that.
did.
yeah. We also have Chris
Go ahead.
LaFrance, who is here. Who is
Oh, where is he? Tell me, Chris, come on
in
up.
the back. So
Welcome
and,
again.
yes. And
Have a seat.
Linda Burke is also here with from
Linda,
AD
come on
Makepeace.
up. You can sit up here on the right. You can pull up a chair. Yeah, bring the team up so the people know who's responsible for working on this project. It's very exciting. Not to change the subject because it's a short meeting and I've asked everybody not to make any speeches. But congratulations on your new acquisition. We saw that in the paper. I saw the signs up. I was in Plymouth Monday on my way home. I saw the new signs up. So it'd be nice to have that intersection thriving again. For those who don't know, AD Makepeace bought the. Well, go ahead. The Rochester line there. Yeah, let her have the mic and let her give a 5-minute buzz on that. Or 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
All right.
We're planning to reopen the nursery and garden center at that location under the name Makepeace Farms. It's opening April 1st under the direction of George Chapman, who many people will know has been there forever. I think he came with the building. We're doing some demolition right now, and we'll dress it up. It'll have all kinds of plants, ornamental and vegetable plants, and George's know-how available to you.
Outstanding. The only problem with it is I wish it was on this side of the street.
Yeah,
You know.
well, my understanding is that the post office considers that a Wareham address, even though most of the property is
Really?
actually located in Rochester.
Outstanding. So, Mr. Sullivan, if you could hit her up for some tax money on that Wareham address. Thank you very much, and congratulations again. It'd be good to see that intersection cleaned up because it's been empty with the big rocks for so long that it's good to see that going on. I digress. Now we're back with Sal.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You're
Go
welcome.
ahead.
I brought hard copies. Did you all get copies that I had emailed off? Does anybody need a copy? Okay. First of all, I wanted to just say that the town team met with AD Makepeace and the LaFrance group on four separate occasions. The group consisted of the town administrator, myself, the town assessor, Elsa Miller, and the town treasurer, collector, John Foster. So we met about 4 times. We put together a proposal that I have emailed off to you. I can review it very quickly to give the highlights of it. We also sent a draft copy of the TIF agreement to the town solicitor, and who pointed out that it was a 10-year agreement instead of a 15-year agreement. And so I told him that's why he gets the big bucks for picking those up. But he was fine with it other than that. So let me just go through on the first page of the document that I gave you has really is sort of the summary of the TIF agreement, and then the rest of the document is back up to it. Okay. I'm happy to go over any piece that you need me to go over. Sure. The key elements to start with is that we had estimated land values of $525,000 and estimated improvement value of $6.9 million. And so all of the numbers that we put in the document are based off of those two estimates. The proposed TIF period is 15 years, and during the TIF period, there would be a total set of payments due to the town of about, I'd say, $1.3 million, of which they would, the LaFrance Group would like to have $622,000 exempted, and the town would receive $761,000. In addition to those, and these are not impacted by the TIF, and that's important for everybody to understand, and these estimates are based on the occupancy tax, for example, which is the first one, is based on an estimate of 50% occupancy. During that same 15-year period, there would be $2.6 million in taxes coming to the town that would not be exempted. The estimated local meal taxes, which are based on 25% of that 50% occupancy, if I got that right, Jeff?
Yes, that's correct.
There would be $74,000 during that period, and the estimated land tax would bring in $111,000. So the total in taxes that would be brought into the town that were non-exempted from the TIF agreement would be $2.5 million, roughly. If you add in the portion of the TIF agreement, that number comes up to about $3.3 million. And the town, if you want to think about it as a return on investment, the town would in essence be investing $660,000 by exempting the taxes for a $3.3 million return over the 15-year period. And that equates to about, for every $1 that the town would exempt, they would receive back $5.32.
Yeah, Mr. Sullivan, you were pretty close on that number. I think when you called me, you said 3.5. Are you going to kick in the balance? No. He's not?
I'm going to send some more people to stay overnight to increase that.
Oh, I see what you're saying, right. Oh, you're hoping for that. Yeah, is that where that's coming from? You said 3.5. I quoted that somewhere, but I said not to quote me. So it's actually 3.3.
That was at a higher occupancy.
At a 50% occupancy.
Yeah. And I think what's important is, on average, the town would be receiving an average annual benefit of about $220,000. The very first year, we'd get approximately $125,000 based on these estimates. In addition, there'd be 50 new jobs that would be here, both full and part-time. We would have a jump start to the Rosebrook development. And I think the other piece that is, and I'd like to see, I've asked Jeff if maybe we could put together some numbers on this, because I know there are numbers related to this, but the benefit of just having the hotel in the town once it's up and running, and the dollars that it brings to the town. I want to say that it's approximately $3, am I correct?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, for every $1 that gets spent at the hotel, $3 come into the town. So I've already had folks telling me some of the benefits. For example, Bay Point wedding, people might have places to stay.
You know, he
Tabor
called
Academy,
me. I think Tim called me the next day when he heard that. And they were jumping up and down for joy because, you know, their banquet business, and I don't want to get off on a different story, but their banquet business is really beginning to grow. And one of the shortfalls is they have no local hotel. We have some B&Bs in Onset, but it won't hold 50 people. Sure. And, you know, they're starting to do the destination weddings and destination golf packages and things like that. But it's Middleborough or Plymouth or somewhere else to put the people up. So they are jumping for joy at that because they really can't do a hotel on their own. They don't have that kind of occupancy. So as a side note, and I'm sure there are other gentlemen that have called you on
Absolutely,
it. So
yeah.
It's a big win for both Wareham and Onset. I agree.
That's sort of the summary. I don't know if you have questions in particular. I'm happy to answer any particular questions that you might have.
Sure. I don't have any particular questions. I just want to reiterate for anyone who might be watching or might read about it tomorrow that the proposal calls for the payment of 51% rather of the taxes that would otherwise be due on the improvements without the TIF agreement. And there is the 51% exemption relates to the buildings. It does not relate to the land. So when you figure out the value of the buildings and the land collectively, you're getting up closer to 60%, I would say, of what the overall property tax accrual only to the town, the benefit would be. So in that sense, I guess we're getting better at this. We didn't drive quite that hard a bargain in the fall, now did we, Sal?
Yeah. No, I think, well, you know, this is a different animal, a hotel, for a lot of reasons. But to your point, when you look at the breakdown of the TIF agreement over the 15 years, it benefits the LaFrance Group in the early part of the agreement. And that's important because they're making about a $7 million investment to get the building up and running. And so that tax benefit is important to them early. After, I think, around year 8 or so, it levels out, and then the benefit returns back to the town thereafter. The overall percentage splits are, as Selectman Titlebaum mentioned, are 51-49. But interestingly enough, when you do the math on the numbers, the actual cash value is more like 55-45 when you work out the cash value.
In the town's favor, and I'm sorry.
That's correct. Yes.
That's important. Mr. Slavin.
Sal, I noticed we have it basically listed as ETAs, EOAs, which is just synonyms for certain types of economic target areas, economic opportunity areas. This will allow us to go forward with these areas as well as to bring in more grants and more help through SERPED, et cetera, I assume.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really important for them to, when you look at regional planning, they're very interested in sort of equalizing the playing field across towns and cities. So to the extent that you have economic target areas, you're able to be eligible for additional funds from state sources.
Also, on the TIF agreement, just to make sure everybody understands, we're basically one town competing against 350 towns for business. It's not like we're the only place in town they have to come to us. They don't. And the TIF agreements become an important piece, especially when the economy is as weak as it is. And it works out for us long term because it's better to have 50 cents of a dollar rather than no dollars at all, is the way I look at it, number one. Number two, you always have to, when anyone like leases a property, you tend to get your rent skewed where it's low in the beginning for 5 years, and then it goes up as the business becomes solvent and it has to be able to pay for stuff. So this is a normal procedure. These are not special terms or anything else if anybody's looking at it. It's a normal way of doing business. I look forward to having this come through. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Winslow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, great job, Mr. Pina.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I'm very happy to see the agreement about the jobs and that we're going to, give priority for all 50 jobs to Wareham residents because for as much as we need the hotel and the revenue, our citizens need work. It's hard to find here, and a lot of people don't necessarily have the ability to travel out of town as easily as others. So kudos to all of you for this is exactly what I wanted to see. And I think it's important too to point out that when I work for a company and we are constantly flying people in from all over the world and all over the country. And once Rosebrook is developed and we have restaurants and shopping, when those people come in, especially when they come in from Europe, because they love to shop in America, we don't have that extra tax on stuff. But they're going to be spending money in Rosebrook. They're going to be eating in Rosebrook. They're going to be shopping. So that creates even more economic activity, and that's what we need. And I have to tell you, I don't think a week goes by when I go into work and they don't say, are they digging yet? When's it gonna, can we have our Christmas party there this year? And I did tell my mom about the indoor pool, so she has committed to every trip staying at your place. And even for parents, a weekend, a night there, swimming in the pool in the dead of winter, I think you're gonna see a lot of that. So I think all in all, it's exactly what I hope to see. So I'm very happy, and thanks for getting it done so quick.
Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
Good, and if I could indulge Ms. Burke again, because this is not only important, an important agreement for the town, but it's also an important agreement as a foundation for expansion of Rosebrook. So, without divulging any private information, what does this mean to Rosebrook by having this anchor come in and begin the expansion?
Well, we've been marketing that property for about 2 years now, and I can tell you that we've seen a lot more interest since the last time we were meeting with you because that's when the hotel became public. And there's been a lot of other businesses who have expressed interest in joining in at this point. It's a
Which
matter
means
of-
more jobs and more
Absolutely.
opportunity and more tax dollars. So, this really helps a lot of areas to get this done.
And I think it's important to note that people who come to this property won't just shop in Rosebrook. They'll be going to Wareham Crossing. They'll be going to downtown Wareham and Onset as well.
Yeah.
And these folks, I'm sure, will encourage that.
And we had, I had a conversation with somebody today about Route 28 and trying to attract more tourists to those types of shops. And so, we see some great things happen. Mr. LaFrance, if you would make comments, we welcome your.
We're looking forward to obviously working with AD Makepeace and the town. We think we run a first-class operation at all of our properties. We look to bring the same service to Wareham for the citizens of Wareham, and hopefully a long relationship with the town.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that as well, sir. Did you have any comments?
No other particular comments, but thank you for your time, and we obviously are excited and can't wait to get started.
The guys didn't bruise you up too bad, did they?
No, I wouldn't know that.
Mr. Sullivan can be tough when he wants to be. Yeah. Sal likes to smile, but Derek
good cop, bad cop.
Well, I think it's an outstanding job done by all, and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Is there? Do you need a vote on this, or have you already voted to put it on the warrant?
Well, we're going to close.
This is on the special, right?
This is on the special, so that'll get closed tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I don't know, will we be doing our recommendations on the special tonight or next week?
Are these done and ready, or?
They're on there, but I think what I would do is next week have the vote on them to be clear.
Do you need a vote
Just
for it? We do need a
in
vote.
terms of the process. Yeah, my understanding was we need.
So is, for clarification, Attorney Bowen, is the vote to approve the agreement?
Yes, because the agreement is technically between you and the company, and town meeting is approving the agreement that's between you and the company. So you want to approve it on your behalf, so then it gets before town meeting properly.
And one thing too, to just remember the change, because I think the copies that I sent you had the 10 years, but that would have to be changed to 15.
No, mine has 15.
Oh, it does. Okay, great.
Yeah, we can't sign it tonight because it's all, it says draft. It has a watermark on it.
Yeah, I have the original. I can get that to you.
Yeah, you should leave it in the office.
Mine says 20 years.
Yours says 20 years? Mine says 15.
I believe just at one spot it said 20 because it didn't.
So you're gonna correct all those before we get the original copy.
Right.
Yeah, the point I wanted to make was for your vote, it's a 15-year agreement.
Got it.
Okay. I move to approve the tax increment financing agreement by and between the Town of Wareham, LaFrance Hospitality Company, and Rosebrook Place Hospitality, LLC for a period of 15 years as contained in the agreement.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? 400.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
Great
much.
job, everybody. And thank you all for your patience in coming in. Thank you, Linda. All right, next up.
Next up, if we can go back, we have the town council interviews.
Have we got any citizens?
I think that we have
One, right?
For the senior
Could we,
work-off.
Indulge one more quickie.
Who do we have?
Ms. Churchill for the senior work-off. Is that on
Right. It's going to be short.
Okay, so this is
C.
discussion regarding senior work-off program, item C under 8.
You got it.
Okay.
Janice, how are you tonight?
Fine, thank you.
And you are on the agenda. See, you said you were going to speak. And
Well, they're not prepared, so
You
I'm
are
here
on
to
there.
give you just a briefing.
Okay.
I've been the tax work-off coordinator for the last 2 years. There've been some issues that I would like to bring attention to the board, and I have some recommendation and guidelines that when you do receive the application, that will have some changes. Yeah, I would like to see if maybe the board would consider them.
Speak a little closer to the mic.
Okay.
There you go.
I'd like to see if the board would consider them by putting them in the application. May I bring them up to you?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we have that. Or at least we have the back page.
There's been some issues in the last year or so as to income, occupant, people owning property. And when I fell into this job, there wasn't anything of a policy as to how the coordinator works the job. So I kind of fell into it. I've enjoyed doing the job. I've enjoyed working with the seniors, and most of it is I take care of the applications. I prepare them, and I put the beach people and the pier people in their slots. Anything over, I usually take the applications and I present them to the department heads. They review them and they fill their slots where needed. There have been some issues as to what departments are considered under the plan. So the ones I've listed those because those are the ones that they've been wanting to fill and coming to me asking for help. I've brought a couple to the town administrator, and he's given approval on a few of them from last year. The program has a date. I'd like to change it on the comments there. It says the program, there should be an execution date, like May 1st, but I believe in the application it says April 1st. On the application it also says to November 30th. There isn't enough time as the coordinator to get the paperwork off to the tax office for this to be approved. As I said, these are just my recommendations. I'd like to know if you could just put them.
Janice, what date are you recommending?
I recommend that the program should start May 1st to October 30th.
May 1st?
To October 30th. That gives the coordinator time to get the applications in and select them out and find out where the beach people are, the pier people are.
Right.
There is a substation at Onset. I'm not sure if that's going to be worked in this year. There was a little issue on that one also. I guess the chief was pulling some of the people off the pier to work the sub. So, if we can consider it as a department and how many people they need, specifically they need.
And they should be given that information in before the program even starts, correct?
You have to approve the money. You have to approve how much you're going to allow people. So it's all up to you.
Mr. Sullivan, who's going to be responsible for the program this year in terms of administration?
There's been a big change on that. Mr. Churchill's been great working on every aspect of it.
I know.
We have a tough situation here because two things. One, it spans 2 fiscal years. So we've had FY13's fundings voted on. We need to, and the suggestions have been excellent to make sure that we're really benefiting the people that need it on there. We need to look at how much we can fund for this.
That was a
FY14.
long answer, but you didn't answer my question, sir. I asked you who in administration would be overseeing the program.
Right now,
me as the coordinator has been overseeing the program, but I haven't been. I don't know who to report to.
Right, that's
as
the
a
question.
town
You and I
employee.
are asking the same question.
Yes.
Right. It used to be out of Council on Aging.
Right.
That doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So it would have to be myself on there, which is
Wrong answer.
You're right. But I need.
You need to find
Do you want to
someone.
volunteer?
There should be, huh?
Do you want to volunteer?
Is it a paying job?
No.
No.
Oh. No, I think you need to, because that was some of the issues last year. Was poor Janice, she's trying to talk to Alan and not specifically, Joe and Mary, in trying to get some guidance. We really need to have. It's not you, by the way.
Yeah, it's not.
Mr. Chairman?
I think Susan used to do it for
Yes.
a while, right?
Yes.
So I think you need to find somebody before we go ahead and start taking the applications. There should be someone helping Janice.
Just someone for me to go to.
That's correct, a go-to person, and it's not you.
That has the authority.
You're a busy guy.
Mr. Chairman?
This is Winslow.
Last year, we wrote out a policy for this.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
thought that we addressed a lot of those concerns. Do you have that?
I have the document right here, but
Okay.
there are some corrections that should be,
Okay, but I just wanted
made
to make
points
sure
of.
that you knew that you, because you know, a lot of
Yes.
times paper goes in that town hall and never comes back out.
I understand that, yeah. And what I did was, when I made those recommendations, I had other towns, and I tried to incorporate some of those recommendations with
Right.
our town. I went through the state policy also that Elsa gave me, and I tried to coordinate some of that. Her and I have been in contact as to possibly a figure. So
Mr.
it's
Titlebaum.
all up to you to make changes, to do what you want. These are my recommendations, and the coordinator, if it's not me, someone needs to make sure that they do go by the
Right.
recommendations. What's happened is, there was a couple of them, because they've done it the year before, I thought they had already had property. They should present a tax bill.
Right.
Okay. Or a vision card. And I don't know, it's up to you about a proof of income, because that would have to definitely be put in a locked file cabinet.
Right.
Some
Mr.
of the
Mr.
information I get.
Okay. Mr. Titlebaum, you had a question?
Yeah, just one thing here. Under the income guidelines, you suggest own and occupy the property for which Wareham taxes are paid. I'd go one step further and have them make a declaration as their primary residence. The object here is to allow people to stay in their homes. I don't think the object here is to make it easier for people to own a vacation home in Wareham, so.
Well, that's what we're saying. We want to make sure they have a tax bill. If they have a tax bill where the address is Wareham, we know they live here in Wareham. If it's up in Concord, we know they're summer residents.
Okay,
So it'd be
thank you.
something that the coordinator would be looking at. You know,
Right,
if that bill
okay.
goes to a resident in Wareham, they're a resident.
Yeah, I just want it to be clear to the applicants that this is the case, so that they don't,
Yeah.
even go to the trouble of submitting that kind of an application for you to do the due diligence and say, no. I don't want you wasting your time saying no. I want them to realize no before
No,
they even think
okay.
about it, so, thank you.
You're welcome.
When are we going to see an actual vote on the 2013 plan?
Well, you need to vote on it before people can fill out the
Right.
applications.
And they start taking the applications, you're suggesting?
I'm suggesting you, as soon as you vote on it, then we can start taking applications. May 1st, I'll start going through everything.
I'd like to hear who's going to administer the program. Do you have somebody in mind, Mr. Sullivan? I'm not trying to put you on the spot,
it's,
but before we begin, we need to have that stuff
Okay.
determined so that we don't have issues.
Okay.
Right?
But I just want to present because I didn't realize that the work
No, you
wasn't
did a
all
great
done
job,
today.
Janice. Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But these are my recommendations, up to the board to do, you know.
Did we use every slot last year? I mean, we were maxed out?
Yes, I ran out of time towards the end of the season. A lot of people try to push it, get the beach done, and they're done.
Yeah.
So at the end of the season, I changed the hours on the beaches
Yeah, this
from
year,
9 to
you know, with
3.
our parking
I
program.
had to change it.
With the parking program that he has planned, if approved at town meeting, that's going to change.
The meters.
That's going to change a lot of this.
Yep, that's fine.
As well.
And
so I
that's
don't have
what
an issue with that moving forward, but I'd like to know who you're going to have administer the program.
Okay.
So,
If the meters go in, then those people's just got to realize
and that will be done
their
through
job would be
through
done,
Mr.
yeah.
Sullivan and his coordinator's office, and you as well.
Okay.
So if you want to do this today, I don't have an issue with that, as long as the person is not you.
I would hold off on voting this specifically.
definitely.
For
Oh, you don't have a.
You don't have an
a lot of
application
time.
or anything. So
19,
I just want to bring my
26,
things
that's
to
all you got.
point. And if you still want me to do the job.
I think he does, right?
I think she's an excellent
Thank
coordinator
you.
on there. We need to.
She needs a raise. What is the percentage of zero? You want a 10% raise?
Yes.
Mr. Bowen, you have your hand up?
Yes, sure. Just very quickly, Mr. Chairman, two things. The Department of Revenue has an excellent IGR that I believe has an application form attached to it, written by Dan Murphy. And secondly, on the question of residents versus non-residents, I believe Chapter 59, Section 5K refers to taxpayers rather than residents as opposed to non-residents. So you might be on a slippery slope.
I think that's,
on
I
that.
think that was in the,
Yeah.
I think that's in the application. I
But
think that.
'Cause
didn't
it's a
we?
rebate on a tax bill, not a rebate necessarily on.
What did you say, chapter 59, section 5? Okay, okay.
Mr. Chair, I believe we had
I
this
see.
conversation last year, and didn't we decided two things. One, if we got more applications than necessary, we could almost preference the residents. But secondly, people who own a second home probably don't qualify with the income. It sort of rules them out once you have the income requirement.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I won't address the first of the two, but on the second,
Don't.
yeah, on the second, I believe Selectman Winslow is correct. I mean, because of the income limitations and the income level, you know, as proposed right here, is probably such that we're not talking about
There is no preference. Thank you.
property owners.
Right, but I think the concern was that the people who are living here would be ousted in favor of people who live out of town. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to the people who actually live in Wareham.
Well, you need to look at the qualifications too. And, you know, I can't put an 85-year-old woman out on the beach because
Right.
that just doesn't work.
No, I understand
There
Right.
is, the figure that I came up with was with Elser had come up with that figure due to, what is the, there's another one that the state takes over and you get back money on that one. What is that, after over 70 or something like that?
We have a couple of issues with that because if we voted that in through town meeting, voted to accept that, you won't receive the reimbursements unless you
see.
voted that in.
Okay, so that's
one
something
of-
that needs to be understood.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's one of
that's
the
fine.
issues. Right now, we're not receiving any monies back from the state on this program. It's approximately $45,000 to $50,000 out of a budget that we need to
Mhm.
look very hard at, and to how many people we're going to offer this to. And I appreciate it, and the people work hard, and we have to make sure that what's being done is the best for the town.
Absolutely.
And that's why you would manage whoever it is that you make responsible.
Yeah.
That's why you're there.
Because on the application, there was also some, you know, I mean, it had the town administrator on there, and then in one slot it says department heads making the decision who's the applications for their work.
Right, he's the manager,
You
and
know,
he-
so it's like a lot of it was repetitious. Some of it needs to be removed, and that.
Right.
So I was working with Sally on that.
So I think it's your call.
Okay.
Today, or you want it next week?
Right now, I'd prefer for next week to.
Alan?
I'd like to put it off a little bit simply because Elsa needs to be here to give us
Mhm.
figures that the town can actually generate and afford.
Yeah.
Number one.
Well, we need to
'cause
make sure we
it's-
do it next week.
Yeah, because it's funded through the assessors department.
I think
number
she
one.
wanted to meet
They're going to
next
start
week,
accepting applications in April, Alan. We're going to get this done.
I know.
Right.
I'm
That's fine.
just, I want to make sure
Okay.
we do it the right way.
Mhm.
And the
All
other
right,
issue,
let's reconvene on this next week.
yeah, and just very quickly, the other issue is
Well-
that there's been issues about, again, people working and other people who couldn't get positions for a long time.
Mhm.
So we need to vet it out very thoroughly.
Well, there's been an issue, there's been talk about a lottery on that too.
Yes.
And I don't know how a lottery works, but if someone could help me with
Okay.
that.
So we'll reconvene next week, Mr. Sullivan?
Okay, thank you very much.
Janice.
Thank you.
So I will be on the agenda next week.
You what?
Would you like me here next week?
Yeah, it's up to Derek, but I think that your information is valuable.
I'm not trying to punish you, but I'd appreciate it.
That's okay. All
I would
right.
assume that the two of you will be talking this week.
Yes,
so
yes,
we
I've
can
given a
get
lot of
this started.
information to Susan to present to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
outstanding, and thank you very much for all you do. Okay. Mr. Barrows. Sorry? I'm sure we'll hear all that next week when they present the plan. You get that question? All right. Next up.
Okay, Mr. Chair,
I don't think we have any other citizens waiting. I'll ask the question again. Okay, great.
Okay.
Mr. Bowen, if you wouldn't mind. No. You don't need to step out. You just need to move out of that chair so it doesn't seem. You don't need to leave. It's a public meeting. You do whatever you'd like. I just didn't want you sitting in that chair when we did this. Yeah, it is a public meeting, so you don't have to leave. I wasn't trying to be rude. Okay, next up, we're going to have some interviews. As you know, in March of every year, the board chooses town council. This year, we started the process sometime in January, blah, blah, blah. We put out an RFP. We have 3 candidates that would like to assume the role as town council. And tonight we'll be doing the interviews. Then the board will have a week to mull it over in their own minds. And then next week we'll have discussion and appointment. So who's here for the interviews? I'll leave it up to you. Whoever wants to go first, come right on up. We'll start out in a real friendly manner. Ladies first, okay? That was very nice of you. There's a point, right? We're going to keep it light. If you would introduce yourselves. We are on TV, so it is live. If you would introduce yourselves and your firm and explain why you have an interest in serving as Wareham's town council. Is that fair? Certainly. And before we do that, I'll go left to right and ask the members to introduce themselves so that you know who everybody is. Mr. Sullivan?
Good evening, Derek Sullivan, Town Administrator.
Peter Teitelbaum, Selectman.
Alan Slavin, Selectman. Hi, Lauren.
Steve Holmes, Selectman.
Kara Winslow.
Selectman.
I'm a selectman also.
Okay.
Actually, I'm an imposter. I shouldn't be sitting in this chair.
Well, with an election 2 weeks away, I don't think that was the best comment.
No, we're all saying we're selectmen. Of course we're selectmen. We're sitting up here with name tags.
Now it's your turn.
Thank you very much for
You're
having
welcome.
us today. Tell me if the microphone issue is right.
Yeah, you have to speak real close to these. Bobby will try to turn it up for you, but...
my name is Lauren Goldberg, and my colleague with me is Betsy Lane, Elizabeth Lane. We are both principals at Copeland and Page, and actually I was recently elected as the managing attorney there, which is why I signed the RFP. And I'm also listed as the backup attorney for Wareham's team. I wanted to essentially reintroduce Copeland and Page to you because, as you know, Copeland and Page was town council here for over 25 years. Some of you may be familiar with the way that our firm operates, and I know it was explained in detail in the proposal, but it's worth repeating at least to bring it to your attention tonight. We are excited to have the opportunity to be before you and appreciate the time that you've given to us this evening. As the new managing partner, I am excited to have the opportunity to build on over 40 years of service as town council to various cities and towns across the Commonwealth. And while we have a lot of established procedures and policies that are useful in our view to helping towns manage their costs, we also have new initiatives that we are moving forward and that we believe bring significant added value to our service as town council. The first thing that you should know is that we are a firm of town councils. Every single one of us is trained as a town council or city solicitor in the basic areas of municipal law that include open meeting law, public records law, conflict of interest law, basic municipal finance, and the other types of things that come up at regular meetings of boards of selectmen like tonight's. And in addition, we are a firm of specialists, of experts in different fields. And what this means to you is that there is a team of attorneys that are dedicated to the town of Wareham, that know Wareham's governing documents and special acts, bylaws, charters, regulations, and policies. And in addition, as backup to our team, we have a stable or a bank of experts in virtually every area of municipal law. And while at one time it was reasonable to think that a single person could serve as a town council, we have really experienced a different set of circumstances that we believe enforce the concept that having a firm with experts in different areas really inures to our clients' benefits. There's cost savings through the types of matters that we all handle all the time. Unlike a solo practitioner or at a very small firm, each time an item comes up, there has to be a learning curve that goes along with that. And our situation is really quite different. And although we do look at every situation that arises independently on its merits, we have the experience amongst a group of us that allows us to respond really already having done much of the research and at other clients' expenses. So we start out, we believe, in a place that allows cost savings across the board for all of our clients. So those economies of scale make a big difference. In addition, we believe that our experience has really taught us about being cost conscious on your behalf. We see ourselves as part of your team. We don't want to waste your money, and we don't want to see your money wasted. It matters to us that we're able to provide exceptional service at a very reasonable cost. And with that in mind, we presented two proposals to you, essentially. One is an hourly proposal, and the other was a set fee for all services within a fiscal year. Obviously, the set fee puts us at significant risk because we essentially provided that as a cap. We said we'll charge you our regular municipal rate, including travel time, up until the cap. And then over the cap, we take all the risk. And we believe that the rate that we chose was fair based on this experience that we've had with Wareham. We looked at all of our old, annual billings, and we took a look at what we did in the most recent year that we provided services to you, which include labor council services, and we provided that, I believe, at about $114,000. And we thought this 96 really reflects what you can expect in the absence of irregular litigation, which sometimes, as you know, towns cannot control. But part of that, we do believe we can help you to control, and that's why we felt comfortable making the proposal we did. We're very proactive for all of our clients. We manage and monitor all legislation at the state level that might impact our clients. We keep an eye on special acts that are passed relative to other municipalities that might be of interest. We issue what we call e-updates, and I actually have some folders of information for you so that you can see the kind of thing that I'm talking about. The e-updates are our response to matters that are of pressing interest and pressing importance, and we usually get those out within a day or two of their occurrence. So, for example, there was recent action by the Attorney General on medical marijuana centers, on locating of medical marijuana centers. The town of Burlington, where we drafted the bylaw for them, had proposed a moratorium. Other municipalities had proposed a total ban, and the AG upheld the moratorium and disapproved the ban. So we immediately were able to get that information out to our clients through this e-update service. In addition, we have a more formalized or more detailed memorandum that we do, which essentially goes through a lot of the reasoning and information that you would need to know to come to a decision on a policy matter. Those we call memorandum to municipal clients or community newsletters, and we send those out periodically. We analyze an issue, we think everyone should know about this, and we send that out to our clients as well. So you get the benefit of that. In addition, we have implemented a third Thursday of the month webinar series where we take an issue that is of the moment and we discuss it. So for example, this month's, and it's next week, and I'm actually the one that's, it's this week, I'm actually the one that's doing it, and it, I better be on time with that.
She'll be there, yep.
And it's on everything you always want to know about town meeting, but we're afraid to ask. And a number of town clerks, town administrators, board and committee members, all interested in the topic, they can log in at no charge, and that's there for them. In addition, all of these e-updates and memoranda are being put online for our clients. It'll be password protected. There'll also be some information that's available to non-clients, but the bulk of our library of this type of material will be on file. So we really do think that those things are extremely important and make a huge difference in the services that we provide. Essentially, you're paying for your town council rate, but you're getting this updated service as you go along. And the other thing that I want to point out, and I will ask Betsy to speak a little about the type of thing that she does and about our litigation department, is that, I just lost my train of thought. Wow. We're constantly available 24/7. We have our cell phones. I mean, I always joke, my phone is never without me. And when I'm without my phone, I get very anxious. It's supposed to be with me at all times. And I really strive to. I'm sorry? Yes.
What? It's, yeah.
It's
It's not right,
disconcerting.
yeah.
We have, with the advent of modern technology, and that's really what it is, we're available all the time for you. Our clients are, it's what we do. We are municipal lawyers. We care about our municipal clients and about the municipalities where we're the lead attorneys and also where we come in to deal with particular issues. So we're always reachable by email, by cell phone, at the office. In addition, and as I mentioned, just so that you know a little bit about me, we have various specialties, and we call on those as to support the needs that a particular town has. So, for example, I'm an election law specialist. I used to be legal counsel to the state elections division. So when legislation was passed about moving the local election to state elections, I immediately discussed those issues with the director of the state elections division, kind of ferreted out some of the issues, and was able to be responsive to individual clients, and then also by sending out the e-update on that issue. I've also worked on particular issues in Wareham. I worked with a charter review committee. I worked on the CETA legislation several years ago. I worked on legislation to help ratify a town election that had occurred with some posting issues. And I've also dealt with your town meetings and have actually attended several of your town meetings. Behind each one of us, there is a team of people that is ready and able to assist. And we believe that through those opportunities and also through opportunities to control costs on your end, working together as a team, we can really help with that. And so, for example, having a access to town council form that the TA has to approve, we have found really reduces kind of rogue legal questions that really don't need to go to town council, using the form as a way to ensure that the Board of Selectmen's policy and the town administrator's policy as to access to council is really carried forward. It also forces staff and employees, elected and appointed officials both, to really focus what their questions are. We find that when there isn't a clear path about access to town council, that the board's, as I said, the board's authority policy authority can be inadvertently undermined, but that also there are occasions when a question is asked a different way by one group on in the office on one day, and in a different way by the town administrator on a Tuesday, and then there's all sorts of consternation. Well, why is there a different answer? And the reason, of course, is that there was a different question, and that's why there's a different answer. We care very much. Sorry. We also care. Oh, sorry. I'll wrap up after this and ask Betsy to speak with you. But the other thing we care greatly about is being policy neutral. We really see our role as being information organizers on your behalf. We want to advise you of the risks, advise you of the potential implications, tell you what the law is, and help you to sort out what any path might lead you to. Now, we are clearly not going to sit by idly while you go down a path that's very dangerous without alerting you to our recommendation on that. No, we don't think that's a good idea. But if you choose a path, we are going to support and defend the path that you choose. And we do not want to put ourselves into the place of elected officials or appointed officials or staff who you are paying to analyze and be responsible for the development of policy. So we really try to outline for you what the issues are and allow you, the policymakers, to make the decisions that matter. We don't like to see ourselves as, another member of the board or another member of the committee, and we really strive, and it sometimes can be difficult, particularly when you're working closely with a board. And this is a good time for Betsy to jump in. But when you're at a zoning board of appeals hearing and the zoning board of appeals is talking about something, it is sometimes tempting to weigh in with an opinion. But we really strive to wait until we're asked, except if it's something that would really negatively impact you. So. Yeah. Well, And we really do believe that our approach, being policy neutral with a full stable of experts in the field, but also people that are really connected to you and to your community, to what you're trying to accomplish. We don't make recommendations to you in a vacuum. We know what's going on in your town. We read the Board of Selectmen's agendas. We read the Board of Selectmen's minutes. We know what's happening. And there are times when a town administrator will reach out to us and say, oh, this could be a disaster, please jump in. And there's times when we might say, hey, we're seeing this thing going on, we really want to talk to you about it. But we know the pulse of the towns that we represent. And it's very important to us that we work together as a team to give you the best service possible at the best rate that we possibly can. And we really believe that the proposals, both of them that we have in front of you, really do that for you.
So if I could chime in and add a few things. Lauren's covered a lot of turf, and Lauren knows a great deal about many topics, but as she has indicated, there is no one attorney that could possibly competently cover the very broad area of municipal law. And I speak from a particular experience because, as you might be able to detect, I'm somewhat older than Lauren. And I started working for Leonard Kopelman, who is still with us, by the way, a valued counselor and advisor and still practicing law. I started with him in 1978. Things were very different then. As a matter of fact, way back when, but it goes before our computer system. I actually worked in Wareham. I attended a town meeting or two. This goes so far before we had our current computer systems and so forth, so the records are someplace in some papers someplace. But in any event, back in those days, what was happening is there was a gradual change taking place that we, in a sense, took advantage of by just offering an opportunity for the towns that realized that as much as they valued the usual gentleman attorney in town that was highly respected, it was no longer possible for that person to do all the work that had to be done. Over the course of my career, so many new things have come in. The Tort Claims Act, various insurance issues that never existed before, Chapter 21E. I could go on and on. There are so many laws that are coming out every year. And what happened is, with a small group, we were a small group of attorneys, and we grew and grew. We were in the ground floor on a number of laws and issues, and kind of grew. The firm as a group grew as those laws grew. And because we have an institutional memory, we all, we share the clients. We don't have one attorney who has one client and another attorney who has another client. They are all firm clients, so we all pull together in the same direction. And that's why really I can say, without any exaggeration, our firm is, people say this all the time when they come to our firm or they visit our firm or they work for our firm, wow, this is not what we think of as law firms. There's that stereotype that it's all very, avaricious and competitive and high-powered. Well, we're high-powered, but in a nice way, because we're all helping each other. And we have this mission of public service. It may sound corny, but that's why we do it, because there are many other things we could be doing with our legal training other than working in the municipal law field. Because although we realize how burdensome it is for you to pay the cost of the legal services you deserve, what we charge you is a fraction of what would be charged for a private client. And actually that gap has grown wider. It's almost shocking to us sometimes to see what private attorneys charge private clients. But we charge you a very fair rate, and we do excellent work for you. Over the years, I remember as a young attorney going into court. This was a case in Stoughton. It was so long ago. It was the Sambo's restaurant. This was really the beginning of this kind of sensitivity, cultural sensitivity about racial stereotypes and so forth. And there was a big to-do about this, and whether the Board of Selectmen had to license a restaurant with a name like that. Aside from that legal question, I can tell you, I remember going to court, and in come the attorneys for the other side, the corporation. There were 5 of them, and there I was, little old me. But I'll tell you, I learned a lot. And what I and my colleagues, and there are several of us of my vintage, and together with the newcomers, and someone like Lauren is hardly a newcomer, but she is of more recent vintage than I am, there's a tremendous body of law that has developed as we've got in the ground floor in a number of things. I think about this just now. I mentioned to Lauren the other day about green communities. We were there at the very beginning of the green communities, and we have people who have done some of the very first projects. Right now, the casino thing is a big thing. We were there at the beginning of that. If you look at our website, and I invite you to look at our website, there's a lot of free material there, and you're welcome to it. If you look at our website, you see that we've run a webinar about what surrounding communities can do, what the roles and the privileges are of a surrounding community, and what some of the strategies are to maximize the benefit that you can get from that if you happen to be one of those. So I just wanted to emphasize that we have now, I think, a really sweet spot to offer our clients, because we have a tremendous collection of the best of old and new. We have people who are seasoned, who know a lot, who have mentored and can continue mentoring the new attorneys that come in. We have younger attorneys, younger than I, but still quite veteran attorneys who themselves have a great deal of experience. And so it's a wonderful package that we can offer. And since we do all work together, every one of us is at your disposal in a certain way. I just would like to mention a little bit about our litigation practice, because it's sort of interesting. We actually practice in every county in the state. So because of that, we get before a great number of judges. So we have become quite well known among the judges. I remember, again, as a newcomer, nobody knew who we were, and now we really get a tremendous respect from the appeals court, from all the superior courts, from the appellate tax board, all the agencies, DEP, you name it. And this comes to you at no extra charge, and I have seen it over the years. It's been a long time, since 1978, and I've really seen that develop. We recently had a fabulous win that you can see written about on our website for over 14 million, was it 14 million? I always want to say 114, but it's a $14 million verdict against one of our client communities that was overturned because of the work that we did. It's, you know, just a fabulous result. And we've had this happen before. I was involved in one that was a mere $800,000, but that we achieved overturning a verdict against one of our client towns. We do have what we call the mission, and I invite you to look at our website. Oh, and I wanted to say about what I do. What do? I do a lot of general municipal law, and
I think that's what Lauren asked you to say. Was what
I'm
you do.
sorry, I digressed. I'm sorry.
That's
And
okay.
I know your time
Relax.
is short.
Take
I know
your
your time is short.
Now relax. Take your time. That's why all the citizens are gone. We got them out of here so that you guys can relax and present your firm's case.
Well, and I think it's a good opportunity for us, if I might say, that I gather this is being cablecast for viewers to find out who we are. You know, they haven't had the opportunity, and they might not find it that enjoyable to read our proposal, but in any event, there's a lot of information in there. What I do is I do general municipal law, as I have for years. You know, the town meeting, the miscellaneous opinions about this, that, and the other, some of the strangest things that come up. Also, in particular, land use, because when I was first starting around the very early 80s, there was a lot of land development, and I've seen the cycles. There's been several cycles, as you all know, boom and bust. And so I became really, again, I have reported cases, you know, appellate cases on zoning, subdivision control. I do a lot of wetlands. I do Board of Health. I do historic. I do all those things that have to do with land use and anything else that comes along. And in the preparation for town meeting, you can see town meeting warrants now are so much more complicated than they used to be. There's such a wide variety of areas. You know, I end up consulting with other people in the firm who frankly know more about certain topics than I do. So my role with you would be as the conduit, would be like a fellow gatekeeper with the town administrator to make sure that the questions that get asked, the service that's requested is the proper service, goes to the right person, and I monitor everything that comes in on towns that I work in, and make sure that they get out in a timely fashion.
Careful what you say about town meeting, and because our town moderator Claire Smith is sitting in the back.
I have a
and she's also a great historian. When we make decisions, she will often call and say, you know, that's not how you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So
It's
Claire
fantastic,
is very well educated and versed on the town of Wareham.
I'm glad you brought that up because this points out one of our philosophies. I have a tremendous respect for moderators. That's a very, very hard job, and I've seen brilliant people fall on their face and other people that, you know, sort of seem to come out of nowhere that are fantastic. It takes certain skills, and it's very difficult to really pull off moderating a town meeting.
Wow. Claire, that's it's quite a compliment.
It is. But, you know, our role at town meeting, for example, we're there to speak when spoken to, when we are asked for advice. We don't butt in. We don't volunteer anything. And like town meeting, like most municipal meetings, are best when the preparation happens behind the scenes. If you have legal questions, that they're dealt with through the chair, not with a conversation with every member, because that's expensive, among other things, but through the chair. That's one of our policies, and we ask our towns to accept and work with us on, and they've all, without exception, found that is the way to go. So we do our work in advance, which is why we're not big proponents of going to meetings. You know, people will say to us sometimes, oh, you know, you're here because you're getting paid. When we go to a meeting, it's because we've been requested to be there, and there's a reason for us to be there. We're not there to run up the town's bill, because it often happens, and I saw this in the old days, that when towns had been used to having town council at various meetings, let's say a board meeting, matters not what the board is, there would be a tendency for people who were there to kind of lob questions at town council, and really everything's through the chair. So the question is what the chair wants to do. If the chair has a question or the board members have a question, that's fine, but it really takes away some of the prestige, if you will, and the control of a board to have a town council unnecessarily at a meeting. So we're big advocates of preparation in advance, preparation with the motions, and now with the new open meeting law, it's a little more complicated, and some of the rules that we all learned for years and years don't quite apply. So making sure that we have a selection of motions that would be appropriate, that's all best done in advance, not in the middle of the meeting when it can be very confusing and errors can be made. So I'm here to help you with that as well. So if you have any other questions, or we certainly, either one of us would be more than happy to talk to.
Mr. Sullivan, since you spend many hours involved, I would welcome your questions as well. Now, I just threw that at you, so I'll start with Mr. Titlebaum. Give you some time to.
I read your proposal. It's very comprehensive, and as noted, you give us two options. One is the flat billing rate of $175 an hour. The other is the prefix A menu, if you will, for $96,000. What other towns have you offered the fixed rate for, and how many towns have taken you up on it to date? I'm kind of curious.
Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact number. Yep. I do know that Acushnet, for example, is a town that recently went to a fixed rate. Betsy, can you think of anybody else?
No, you know, it's not that common. We have some towns that have a retainer for some of the general work, general opinions and so forth, and then pay by the hour for other matters. We are not big advocates of having sort of fixed kind of costs, because, you know, your costs are going to go up and down depending on the year, depending on the demand, and you should get the benefit of the low cost years as well as we don't want to do anything that looks like it's encouraging you to to get work from us that we bill you, and we don't. So it's not really that frequent, and we found that most of our towns are more than happy to pay as you go for the work. And that, what's nice about that is it really helps the client to decide what's important, what is worth paying for, what they want counsel on, rather than just sort of a shooting the breeze kind of a thing. It's difficult for us to tell someone that we have to sometimes and say, you know, we're really getting off the track here, so we kind of have to get back to some of the legal issues, because, you know, that's what I'm here for. We have good relations with all our clients, but we haven't found that there's a big demand for this kind of arrangement. We gave you this because it seemed that you were interested in that, and so therefore we provided it for you. But if I left any
I think that there is an interest as of late for towns to be presented with both options, and I do think that in responding to requests for proposals, we have frequently made a flat rate proposal. But again, the way we did it here is intended to allow you to get the benefit of the bargain rather than to allow us to get the benefit of the bargain. What we had said in our flat rate is that it would be the better of, meaning the lesser of, the time we actually bill, including travel time and attendance at meetings, or that $8,000 a month, $96,000 a year. So you wind up with the benefit of the bargain regardless how it works out. And, why do we do that? Well, we do think we can help you keep your costs in a reasonable place, and this is an example of our belief in ourselves. We also believe that the team approach, that through communication, that we really can, anticipate the types of legal services that you're going to need, and the real risk comes down to significant litigation. We hope that doesn't happen. We want to have the opportunity to serve you again. We valued being your town attorney for years, and we think that's worth something to us. So that's why we made the proposal the way that we did.
Thank you for that explanation.
Did it really answer the question, though?
Well,
you were asking.
Yeah, well, it did. Essentially, what we learned was that one other community, locally at least anyway, has accepted the fixed price for legal services, and that's kind of what I was getting at, because I'm curious to do a little more due diligence on this proposal and talk to fellow communities that have adopted this fee arrangement, and just to see how they feel that it's working out for them. How recent was that Acushnet went this route?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. I believe it was about 2 years ago.
Okay.
I'm
they've got some experience with it then, so I'm not calling them up. You didn't sign it last week, in other words. So
I'm happy to get you a list of other communities. I think there likely are some others.
I just think I missed it in the answer. Is it 50-50? Is it 75-25? That's what I was hoping for.
No, it's not the norm. The norm is that they pay as they go.
The fixed rate. No, I'm sorry. The
billable hours is, you pay us for each hour we work for you or portion thereof, and we bill in 6-minute increments in a typical way that attorneys do. You get detailed bills, you can follow along, and you get those regardless. Again, the way that we propose this, the benefit of the bargain is yours, but you would still be able to go and look to see how has that case worked, how long did Lauren actually spend on that?
Right.
And do we think that's
reasonable?
reasonable?
At like 95.5.
That could be it. I just am not sure. I'll double check that. I didn't anticipate that question.
It's a ballpark question.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Slavin.
My turn?
Yeah, it can be your turn.
Thank you.
It's fine. Go right ahead.
Just a very simple question. How many towns is each one of you primary, and how many towns is each one of you the backup?
Do you want to go first?
I have to
I'll go
count.
first. Well, all right, yeah, I can start ticking them off.
Don't really need to know who this number.
Oh, well, they're so different. That's the thing. Some towns are
understand.
large, some towns are small. I have 5.
I have 6.
And as backup?
Probably another 5.
I think I might be a few more. A number of the towns where I'm the backup is a smaller town and a more active primary. So, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just to...
Oh, sure, go right ahead.
Yeah.
Just feel free
I
to
think
speak.
there is always some concern with whether especially if you're used to having somebody who is either here or dedicated solely and completely to the town, about how this arrangement works. And what I can tell you is that we have it down to a science. We make use of the resources that we have, so that if there is a question, as I said, that I'm very facile with, I'm going to shoot you back an answer right away. If it's something I'm not very facile with, let's just say it came in, it was a Community Preservation Act question. So that's something I know a lot about. I answer it. Let's say it's not, though. Let's say it's a zoning question, and Betsy gets it. So Betsy's going to look at it. She's going to say, I need a little help with the research on this. She's going to have a person, who's good at zoning, do a little of the research and come back to her, and she's going to make the call as to how to answer the question for you. So every minute isn't spent on responding to your exact question, but we're using the resources we have to make sure that you're getting the right answer, the complete answer, within the time period that you require. And that's really what it comes down to. For example, there are some towns where the town manager or the town administrator will say to me, I need an answer in 7 days. So 7 days from today, that answer better be on my desk. And there's others that say, I really need this in 2 hours. Can you do that? And in both cases, I am going to say yes, and I'm going to make that happen. And that's the guarantee that we make to our clients, and we come through with that.
If I could, through you, Mr. Chairman, add something. The reason
Please feel free to speak.
Thank you.
don't have to do the
The
chamber
reason I
thing, okay?
hesitated about the numbers is
Thank you.
because the numbers hide so much. It's so interesting, and of course, over the years, I have been primary contact for many towns that I no longer am. For various reasons, someone else will succeed, usually because there's some matter that is really taking over the town that's in their particular area of expertise, like a big piece of litigation or a big environmental problem. And you know, we honor the client's preferences, but a lot of times it just happens naturally that that person ends up at town hall so often that, you know, it just is natural for them to field more of the questions. But it can be sometimes that a very large town can be much less demanding than a small town. So, you know, all towns are not equal, and that's one of the things we know very well. So we have to tailor what we provide to what their needs are and what their strengths are. If you have a town that has very strong department heads, there's much less work. If you have a town that has people doubled up on departments, have doubled up on positions, or have neophytes in there, well, for a period of time, we might have to spend more time there. So the actual number, the raw number of the towns that we perform various services for as individuals doesn't really tell you that much, with all due respect.
Thank you.
Mrs. Winslow.
Hi, thanks for coming out tonight. I know it's a late night. My question has to do with your quote. And what happens when we get litigation? Is that going to be included in that cap?
Yes. Yes, and if I may, in response to the question that was asked earlier, you know, this quote is very simple, because a lot of times when you make a fee proposal on a flat rate, you accept out a number of things.
Right.
We didn't accept out anything. We didn't accept out, it says all litigation, and that's what we meant. Now, it doesn't cover labor costs, because labor is not included as part of this.
Yep.
So this is everything on the municipal side, and it's covered. And as I said, if there's a risk, the risk is on us, and we're willing to assume that risk. Now, if, let's say, something extraordinary happened and there was an incredible amount of litigation that really, you know, made the benefit of the bargain just so obviously, wonderfully in your favor, it's possible we would come to you and say, look, you know, would you be willing to ask town meeting for a special appropriation to cover that incredibly outrageous, totally unexpected litigation? That has happened in the past. We have done that. But you know, that's not what we anticipate. And we believe that the way that we provide legal services, we will help you to minimize the potential for that kind of litigation. We can't, of course, make the potential go away, but we do believe we can help minimize.
Well, and I appreciate that. I mean, I'm proud to sit with my colleagues here, and I don't think that we get those big, outrageous pieces of litigation. So for that, I'm glad. I think the department heads, the town administrator, and this board certainly work hard to avoid that. We're not interested in getting ourselves in that. But thank you. I was curious about that, because I do know there are often a lot of exceptions, and you lawyers, no offense to any lawyers in the room, but are really good at that fine printed stuff. So.
But, you know, trying to avoid that kind of liability is the reason we emphasize education so much. With our old types of education, which were learned letters, and our newer, briefer electronic updates and our webinars, we're trying to really spread as much information as we can to you to help you avoid those pitfalls.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
I won't. I was going to ask a history question, but I won't do that because I don't think it's fair to you, because the other folks have no history, the other applicants. So I'll try to stay away from that. But in the last year or so, our town council, we have had town council present at most all of our Board of Selectmen meetings. I come from that background in New Bedford, where The city council actually has, you know, a lawyer.
Mhm.
And I think that that's been very beneficial to us because we're not lawyers. Well, one of us is, but when he sits here, he's not. And it's been very beneficial to us when citizens come up and ask a question to have someone here to help us through that. There's also office hours, the so-called office hours, where town council visits town hall once a week and spends time with Mr. Sullivan, department heads, committees that have asked the proper permission to do that. And I got to tell you that at first I was a little leery because we're on a fixed fee now, right? And I was a little leery about it, but I think the concept works very well. Because our book went from a large 3-ring binder when I first got here to maybe 4 cases. That's a significant decrease. And I think a lot of it is because we're proactive. And when we see things, we can detect things better, I guess. So I'd like to ask your opinion about having council, you've mentioned council president, some meetings, and I'd like to hear your opinion as a firm as to whether you think having town council here is beneficial, having these office hours are beneficial. Our land folks also attend a lot of the zoning meetings and things so that they're involved ahead of, I'm going to sue you, right? And I think that helps us to save a lot as well. So I'd like to hear your firm's impression
Absolutely.
of that.
I mean, we do have a general philosophy about this, and I'm going to share it with you. Our obviously, each town is different, and you need to do what's best and right for your town. So just because I might say something now that is a little bit at odds with what you just said, I don't want you to think that in any way that it may not be the right thing for you. It's just
Right.
in our experience, and
that's
let me,
just, and
yeah.
you know, and that's my opinion as
Yes,
one member
of course.
of a board.
Of course.
Right. So.
I should say, and actually I'm glad that we talked about the in-office hours thing and attending every meeting of the board. Our fee proposal, the flat fee proposal, really doesn't contemplate that kind of
Right.
of presence at town hall. We would expect under an agreement like what we had proposed that you'd say, gee, can you come to this meeting on this month on Thursday night because we have this big issue going on. It'd be great to have you there. Or I'd love for you to come to do office hours this weekend this Friday because we've heard from a lot of people that there's an issue. If you wanted us at every single office hours every single week, then we would probably talk about a reduced rate for council to be there, and we'd waive our travel time.
And that's why I'm asking the
Yes.
question because that's a benefit that we enjoy.
Yeah.
And when you try to compare proposals,
Yes.
right?
So
there are differences in the proposals.
Yeah.
And one is for those hours and one isn't.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't expect you to attend all these meetings and for that kind of money.
Sure.
That's just not doable.
I appreciate that statement. What we would propose to do if you wanted us to come for office hours or to come every single week for a meeting is we'd do it at a reduced rate, and we would do it at $150, which is significantly lower than the $175 that we've
Right.
proposed. And again, as I said, we'd waive our travel time, again, to facilitate the result that you want. Our concern as a firm about going to every meeting and about doing office hours essentially relates back to, I think I'd mentioned this before, our philosophy of remaining policy neutral and allowing the Board of Selectmen and the other elected and appointed boards to be the policymakers. And in our experience, what we've found is that there are unintended consequences for having your attorney there at every single meeting. And sometimes it's a benefit, as you suggested, and then sometimes you see it go the other way. You hear comments, oh, so-and-so is like the 6th member of the board, or there's an inclination to say, well, I think we should do this, don't you think? And turn to the attorney, and then it kind of turns from the board's discussion to a discussion about what the attorney judges as the best option. And again, our position is that we want to say to you, let's just take a TIF, for example. I know you're talking about TIFs tonight. Let's say it was back, 2 months ago when you first started talking about it, and it could be that someone said, well, we're going to propose this or we're going to propose that, and you might say, what do you think about that? Versus afterwards taking that information and turning to your attorney through a confidential communication with the town administrator to say, this is what's being proposed. Is that legal? Is that a good idea in terms of what the regulations say? Is that jive with that? Do you think that we should be having a conversation about that at a public meeting? The other thing that happens, and this is, again, I think the law of unintended consequences, somewhat of a pun, is that even when you've passed something through the town administrator for the office hour situation, you get into a situation where the town attorney is basically acting on behalf of or as a conduit for the board or the town administrator, rather than the policy making that's being made happening with you guys. And so the risk is that someone goes off to kind of try to carry out the will of the board, but essentially winds up shaping the will of the board by bringing back a proposal or by bringing back a possible way of resolving something that really wasn't vetted or wasn't part of the direction of the board. Now, again, there may be a time, especially when there's a transition, where it is very useful to have counsel there every single week to become familiar with department heads, to work closely with the town administrator, to identify priorities with the board, to review some standard practices and procedures. One of the things that I have in the packet tonight, and as you will likely discover, is that I work very closely with the open meeting law, both before and after the open meeting law was passed, the new open meeting law was passed. And I had a wonderful relationship with the district attorneys before all of the enforcement got sent to the AG, and I have a very good working relationship with the Attorney General's office. Now, that being said, I have the experience, because I work with so many communities on these issues, to know the types of things that are going to create red flags. So what happens when we come in as town attorney? We take a look at all your standard practices and procedures, and we say, hey, is there any value added that we can bring to this right now that helps you avoid a potential complaint to the DA or a complaint to the DEP or some combination of those things? And so there may be a ramp-up time where it makes sense, then you want us there regularly. The other thing is, and we do this quite frequently, is let's say that you have us out to do a litigation status update, and hopefully there's not much of that. We're going to meet with the board in executive session to review that. We might come 4 or 5 hours early, meet with some department heads, discuss some pending matters with the administrator, and then come before the board to resolve whatever issue we're actually there to do. There's no cost for us to get there because we're already there for another reason, and so we're able to do that, plus have a presence at town hall. And then the other thing, we do we propose to do 2 free seminars under our flat rate proposal, and that's another opportunity. We're already here, so it's a good opportunity when we're at town hall to maximize that experience.
Sure.
But it still doesn't necessitate us being at every single meeting, in our view.
Thank you.
If I I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to give Mr. Sullivan an opportunity to ask a question, and then we can kind of wrap this piece up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
I think I'm smiling a little bit on this because from what they've said, we're doing some things correctly. We have the board policy on access to town council that saves some money. We didn't go with the ban, the marijuana, bylaw. You start feeling good with some of the decisions, so I appreciate that. I guess one of the questions I'm having is, besides just the billing and such, what do you think Koppelman Page would offer that sort of a cost saving overall? If you understand what I'm trying to say, is beyond hourly rates, flat fees, it's sort of stopping us from causing issues that would go towards litigation, even though that's covered, or irregular litigation, as I heard before.
Well, perhaps I could reemphasize, we've been trying to, with so much to say, and we're so enthusiastic, it may all come out in a rush and it's hard to retain, but there are a number of things that we think that we can offer. I mentioned, for example, the prestige of the firm. That is not nothing, but that's based on experience, so that we know many things that your typical law firm, believe me, is not going to know, and that a single person could never cover. And because we share our expertise, that all gets funneled to you. So we're really talking, we end up talking about the money aspect because that was a significant part of your RFP, but it's really a quality product that we're offering it you without a surcharge, without an extra charge added on top of that. So you are getting what we think is absolutely, and we're modest people, but I'm going to say it, the absolute best product that you could possibly get from municipal practitioners. There's just no way that any other law firm that exists out there could funnel so much work through the conduits of the few people we have designated for you and give you that high quality. Just no other way to do that. So if we've clouded that by all this talk about the monetary aspect, that's unfortunate, but it's all about the quality, the tailoring that we will make to you, as every municipality is different. And cities are different from towns. So obviously the chair's been involved in a city, and the way I've represented 3 different city forms of government, and they're really different. And we know how to tailor our work to you. So we are coming here to provide Wareham what Wareham needs, with everything that we have amassed through our experience to give to you.
And if I could just add, one of the things that we talked about before is that our experience, what we bring, what we've already seen, what we are seeing right now in our other client communities, is what we also bring to you. It's not just the individual experience that each of us as seasoned municipal attorneys bring, because Betsy and I, between us, we have a significant track record, and we're proud of that. But it's not just us. It's that we have an opportunity to share amongst our firm, amongst the members of our firm, the cutting edge legal issues are being researched right now. And when you then ask, gee, and let's use the moratorium as an example. We're thinking about a moratorium. We've already researched it. We've already written a version of it. So what we would do then is we save you money right away, because all we would do, we don't need to research that again. We don't need to analyze the big picture issue again. What we're doing is we're saying, how does Wareham write their zoning bylaws? Let's review that. Let's see where it goes in the zoning bylaw, and let's get it into the right shape for the warrant. And that's it. So we are saving money right up front because we've already done this work. And there are occasions, like let's take the CETA legislation for an example. That was something that was interesting and different, and was not anything that you could necessarily say, oh, I have something like that in my back pocket, because it was tailored to Wareham. It was of and for and because of Wareham. But I am an expert in special legislation. I have worked with special legislation. I've written state regulations and state laws. So that experience is what I brought to bear. And I was able to listen to what was being told to me by the town and say, hey, this is the best and easiest way to get this done. If you go in this direction, this is going to be a problem. If you go in that direction, that's going to be a problem. And I know Selectman Slavin is listening to this because he's heard this a little bit already. Charters are another example. I have worked with any number of types of municipalities. I've read their charters and their bylaws and their ordinances. And so when it comes time for me to do a charter review, I'm starting way ahead of most people. And there's, it's not even as though they could try to catch up, because in my head I'm thinking, oh yeah, Watertown has that, or oh yeah, Amesbury has one like that. Freetown just did this. Those are the types of value that we bring. And I hope you do take time to look through the materials that I brought, because it really sums up that value added piece.
Okay.
There's a lot of good municipal attorneys. We bring something else.
Great. We do need to circle the wagons. You all set?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our board members all set? Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you very much.
It was a great presentation. You have a lot of energy there, which is very good. Did you say, I'm sorry if I missed something. Did you hand something out?
No.
I have it right here.
Oh, because you kept saying you'll have this, you'll have that. No. Okay. Thank you. And this is in addition to the original?
It's not part of our proposal. It's just an example of the types of materials that we prepare
Very
for
good.
our clients on a regular basis.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time and attention.
I'm sure you probably expected to be home watching TV by now.
This was much more interesting than we saw tonight.
Very interesting for us, too.
Thank you again.
Drive safely. Sir? You're still smiling, so you're not mad. That's a good thing. Great.
Good. My name's Larry Mayo.
You're gonna need to sit, and Larry, you're gonna have to really get your mouth right on that phone there. And
Sure thing. Larry
There you
Mayo. My firm is entitled Attorney Lawrence P. Mayo, PC. My office is in Norwell, Massachusetts. I'm essentially a sole practitioner. I have an associate counsel, Stephen Cox, who I've named in the proposal, who couldn't be here tonight due to family obligations. But in any case, I have been practicing law since 1996 when I passed the Massachusetts State Bar examination. Prior to that, while in law school, in fact, I was a law clerk at a municipal law firm, which is what facilitated my interest in pursuing municipal law as a career. When I graduated from law school and passed the bar examination, I was hired by the City of Boston Law Department as an assistant corporation counsel. The City of Boston Law Department is a department comprised of approximately, on any given day, 80 attorneys or so. And we essentially...
On any given day.
Yeah, give or take a few personnel, yeah. But, and in the law department, we handled virtually all of the city's both litigation and operational legal matters, which is really where I honed my teeth and gained substantial experience. I served as assistant corporation counsel for 5, 6 or so years. At that point, went out on my own, establishing Attorney Lawrence P. Mayo, PC, professional corporation, engaged substantially in the practice of municipal law. Since incorporating, I've had the opportunity to represent and retain various or several municipalities, including the town of Halifax. I serve as town council. I serve as general counsel to the Lawrence Redevelopment Authority, which is an urban renewal corporation, statutory. I serve from time to time as outside counsel to the City of Lawrence. So again, for my 16-year or so legal career, I've been heavily embedded in municipal law, from soup to nuts, essentially. Of course, I will take exception to what has been described as this, larger practice with much greater and broader capabilities. I think the trend, in a sense, is away from these much larger firms to the solo or smaller practitioners. My experience ranges from, municipal finance to tort litigation to civil rights litigation, employment litigation, day-to-day, most importantly, I think, for this particular board in the town, that, embedding myself from an operational standpoint within the sort of halls, if you will, or at least the minds and thoughts of the people that work and the boards that work within the town hall setting, understanding and knowing that, when necessary, when they need legal counsel, they can come to me and receive exceptional legal consideration and direction. That said, I think it's a good time to interject again that this is my own practice. I'm not one of 80 people. My reputation in the community, in the legal community and in the sort of social community, depends on the work that I do. As you know, whether you're employed or simply volunteering in the municipal setting is never or is often not, I don't want to say rewarding, but there's volatility there, is my point. And the last thing people remember are the difficult situations you may have found yourself in. My job, again, is to keep boards, committees, employees out of the difficult situations so that a volatile situation doesn't erupt, end up on the front page of the local newspaper and cause everybody to, question, if you will, the day-to-day operational characteristics of the municipality.
I think you make a good point that I would agree with you that there are advantages to having a smaller firm. And I think sometimes there are advantages to having a big firm. So I think, but it is nice to know that when you pick up the phone that you're going to get somebody that you know. And when you have 80 people, sometimes it's hard to know 80 people. So I agree with you.
Yeah, I think-
Characterization, there's pros and cons on both sides.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I think, but most importantly to the town administrator or the various members of the, municipality that you're dealing with, they want to not only know you but trust you.
Right.
And understand that you're going to get quick, concise, accurate information so that they meet their obligation in a professional manner. I think in my proposal I indicate that, there are two key components to providing municipal legal services. There's the operational legal aspect and there's the litigation legal aspect.
Right.
And, as we all know, communication and information is the key. I think it's very important. It's the key so that you don't end up in, a litigious situation. Whether it's among and between various board members or departments, which can happen from time to time, unfortunately, or between the town and, third parties, the citizens.
Which is, I think, is where we've tried to go over the last year or so, is to be more proactive as opposed to reactive.
Yeah, I gleaned that from your earlier, discussions. I think
Right.
it is important.
And
it's
instead of
something
waiting for somebody to say, "Oh, I'm going to sue you."
Yeah.
We've taken the approach that it's better to be up front of those situations, and sometimes a communication between us and council and the citizen or group.
Yeah.
We've been able to avoid a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because really, when I came in here, the binder, Kara will remember, the binder was that thick. It was a big 3-ring binder.
Right. And I think it's commendable, and I think it's important that if feasible, that you do have these weekly, bi-weekly sort of office hours for the town council. And whether that's simply to meet with your department and board members, or perhaps even invite in members of the public. It's really up to you, but it can never hurt, put it that way, as long as everybody understands that the attorney is representing the board at the end of the day.
Let's go around. The first one wasn't too interactive. I like these to be a little interactive. Neither one. You already had your turn, so you're ready, I think. You want to let him go first? Mr. Sullivan? I'm sure you'll be in the same range with the question. We don't switch questions.
Yeah, the first thing I'd like to apologize, I missed the introduction. Who would have thought I'd be the one with the weakest bladder on the screen?
I thought that'd be Nora's problem.
Yeah.
Mr. Sullivan just had a baby girl a couple of weeks ago, and her
congratulations.
name is Nora.
Oh, thank
So
you.
we're
Actually,
teasing
his
him a
wife
little bit
had
about that.
his wife had the baby. Yeah.
Number one, I presume.
Number one,
All
that was
right.
first one, and I did a lot of work during that labor, so.
He had a baby too. Go ahead, Mr.
I can
Sullivan.
assure you it wasn't nearly as much.
I think you might be correct. Well, thank you for your time, and I appreciate you coming here tonight. And that's one of the questions, and I was hearing as I walked in, it was what you believe you can do to help us, not get into issues that are litigation or stop before we would even go down these windy roads and such.
Right. Yeah. Again, it's information. It's informational. On a regular basis, updating the various boards and department heads on what the status of the law is, what changes of the law, in the law there may be. I'm also a member of various legal groups, if you will, the Mass Real Estate Bar Association, the City Solicitor and Town Council Association, Mass Municipal Association, Mass Bar Association, things of that nature. And, there's always a lot of sort of chatter, if you will, on interactional websites as far as, changes in status in the law. So I have my own resources as far as, updates go, and keeping, if you will, municipalities up to speed. As an example, I'm well aware of the medical marijuana law as well, advising my clients appropriately. I mean, so there's a lot of that information out there. Again, beyond that, though, as far as the sort of usual or routine updates, again, it's the ability and willingness to be here for the board on a regular basis. Including perhaps sitting at these meetings on a regular basis, but certainly keeping office hours. I do think that's very, very important. That way, again, you're getting you're giving, and the town is getting your undivided attention on one particular issue face to face on a regular basis. On something which may or may not even become an issue, So that's, I think a good interactional opportunity there to sort of steer somebody down the right path and perhaps keep them out of trouble, which, again, is important. You know, and even beyond that, it's just, you know, really being accessible. I'm only, it's about a 34 or a 35 mile drive, but, you know, it's, you know, 45 minutes or so, you know, from my office in Norwell down to here. Very pleasant ride, I might add. Traffic isn't an issue, but, you know, any one of my clients, if you were to so call them, will let you know that I am completely accessible, constantly. You know, I think you know, if you get a hold of my office by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to get a call back that day. You know, certainly the next morning. I mean, if I'm there and available, I'm on the phone. So accessibility is always a key. Punctuality is a key. You know, providing immediate, quick, and solid information is the key. And again, all of it, you know, my research, my writing, my interaction with people is very, you know, succinct, clear, concise. I provide, again, because my own reputation depends on it, I provide very, very solid opinions and representation that any one of the board members, townspeople, can rest on and rely upon. I'm the fall guy at the end of the day. That's how I set up my practice. That's how I expect to be treated. I mean, you guys are paying, or the town would be paying me to do what I do, that is be a lawyer. And I would expect that you would have every right to rely completely and fully on whatever information I give to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Titlebaum.
I'm heartened to hear that you believe in a prophylactic approach regarding how municipalities conduct themselves. One thing I will say, Mr. Chairman alluded a little while ago to a very fat binder of litigation materials when he came into office, and that has shrunk. Some of that, of course, has been getting some good advice that keeps the board out of trouble. Part of it is, I think, other people's mistakes have somewhat accrued to our advantage as well. We've seen certain paths that predecessors have gone down that haven't been the best paths to take, and so I think we've been a little chastened by that, and so that's been beneficial. With regard to litigation, could you tell us a little bit about the most interesting or notorious or fascinating case you've done?
Well, interesting.
In municipal law.
Yeah, in municipal law.
Using any names, of course.
I was just involved fairly recently, not that it was all that cutting edge, but in a dog banishment and euthanization case, which went up and down from the administrative level to the district court magistrate level, further appealed to the district court level. District court reversed the Board of Selectmen's decision. Not in my opinion.
Oh, that's not very good.
Yeah, went back.
I don't like that case.
Went back down. Same process all over again. Magistrate affirms, back up to the district court level. District court finally affirms our decision. Didn't get to the point of euthanization. Dog ends up being moved out of town. Dog returns to town. And that's where the story ends at this point. But, I mean, those are the types of things that, you know, sort of fun things, if you will, interesting things.
Talking about dogs.
Yeah.
Did you hear
Yeah, I think he's done some research on me here. So.
Oh, is that right? Are you?
We've got a dog bylaw that's pending before town meeting. That
I was in trouble with the dog officer. This one.
I see, but
aren't you, Peter?
But
not any longer.
You know, the business of municipal law is a very heavily regulated industry, and you know, most people don't understand that. You know, as I supply to my clients' Board of Selectmen, you know, what I explain or impute upon them, thrust upon them, is that, you know, you are the board of directors of a multi-million, tens of millions dollar corporation, you know, and every decision you have matters, and you can't take any decision or make any decision lightly. I mean, you have, you know, you could have thousands of people relying upon every decision that you make.
You know, that's a good point. We didn't mention that earlier, but maybe you should explain our upcoming role for the doggy hearings.
Oh, that one. Well, we've got a couple of parallel tracks going on here. One is town meeting in the fall approved administration to go forward with a special with a request for a special act from the legislature overturning a special act in 1994 that took away the hearing authority from the Board of Selectmen and invested it in the police chief.
Oh, really?
Our police chief is too busy dealing with crime, of which we have too much, unfortunately,
Right.
To really devote any attention to this. So the goal is to get it back before this board. So we're waiting on Beacon Hill to take care of that for
I
us.
see.
The other piece is at town meeting in the spring last year, there was a proposal for a dog bylaw that was lifted substantially, I think, from sandwiches. When people heard the word euthanasia for barking dogs,
Right.
that was the end of it.
Right.
And I moved at the time to set up a committee to study the issue. Just as we were getting our things in order and wrapped up in August, the state proceeds to amend the dog law.
Right, right, right.
And substantially.
Right.
And so we had to go back to town meeting, ask for another 6 months. So we're going to get it before town meeting this
Mhm.
time around, so it's going to be kind of interesting.
All right.
But surprisingly, dogs are, well, maybe not so surprisingly to us, but I think a lot of people find it interesting. Dogs are a big deal.
They are.
Uh,
They're almost like cars. People will, spare no expense on their dog.
Yeah.
If you're into dogs, you're not afraid to pay for it and defend it.
So I'm looking forward to a vocal hearing on that warrant article.
There you go. Good luck.
Mr. Slavin.
Well, thank you for being very succinct. I appreciate it when we get bullet answers rather than long stories. I have no other questions for you. You've answered them all.
I appreciate the succinct
Was that a jab to
questioning.
your left? I'm sorry. I've been picking on you a little bit, but it's just jovial. Because you do that lawyer thing. Mrs. Winslow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I think Lawrence is doing a fine job of, maybe you should work with him a little bit. He's doing a fine job of answering questions. Mrs. Winslow, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to clarify the conversation about the 3-inch binder. And again, no offense to any lawyer in the room, but that was a commitment on behalf of the Board of Selectmen to not allow that stuff to hang over our heads. And we made our decision and our commitment clear to town council and expected that this stuff was going to get resolved, and that's what we've seen. So the credit for that, lies with the board. Nobody else. But other than that, I don't have any questions. Well, actually, let me ask one question. Is Halifax the only town that you serve as town council for?
As specific town council, yes.
Okay. Because I was kind of writing really fast. So
Right.
Just wanted to make
I
sure
serve as
didn't-
general counsel to the Lawrence Redevelopment Authority.
Yeah,
which
I
again
got
is
that one.
We're intergovernmental with the city of
Okay.
Lawrence.
No, I just wanted to make sure I
fine.
didn't miss
Yep,
any.
absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to go down the same road because, in deference to my colleague, that 3-ring binder has been reduced to a few pages. Not only because of the commitment of the board, but because of the commitment of the town administrator and the fact that we involve town council almost in our everyday life here
Right.
in the town by holding these meetings and holding office hours and doing that sort of thing. So that we're very proactive ahead of time, a department head or Mr. Sullivan, board members, commission members, can feel free to say, hey, this is where we're going with this. What do you think? And we get good guidance up front before we make decisions, which causes us to get sued, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to hear your take on these visits and these biweekly or weekly meetings, and attending our meetings, and how does that affect the flat fee that you've put into your proposal?
Sure. No, that wouldn't affect the flat fee. Again, my presumption was, and my suggestion, I can only write so much into the proposal, but the reality is when I'm writing this thing up is, I am perfectly ready, willing, and able, and I would expect in an arrangement like this, in a flat fee arrangement like this, that I would be, required to be here and should be here on a, again, whether it's, we can figure it out, but weekly, bi-weekly arrangement to, again, meet with the various department heads in order to sort out the issues. That keeps the caseload down. It actually makes my job easier. Again, I'm 45 minutes up the road. What does it matter whether I'm servicing you from, realistically and practically, to come down here? It doesn't make a big difference to me. I'd prefer to meet with somebody in person so that I can get a feel for them they can get a feel for me, and we can work with each other on a regular and routine basis in order to get things done. It builds an element of trust, and that's one of the key foundations of my practice, and again, reputation.
I agree with you. Any other questions? Nobody? Any other comments?
No. Again, we didn't really talk about the price proposals. They're there. They speak for themselves.
Right.
There's no science behind it. I think it's fair and reasonable. I didn't just pick it out of a hat. I sort of did a survey of various cities and towns and, what I know or what I've seen gone in there and what they've accepted, that kind of things, different budgets. So again, there's some thought put behind it. I think it's fair and reasonable. Always open for discussion.
If you had seen our bills a couple of years ago, that number would have been a lot higher.
It never ceases to amaze me.
We had a couple of years there we were close to starting with a 4, so we've greatly reduced that. So, well, listen, Lawrence, thank you very much. We appreciate your time and your preciseness to the answers. And if nobody else has any questions, we'll wish you good night and good luck. And thank you very much. It was very nice meeting you. Mr. Barros, are you up next? You want to take a shot at it? Now, there would be some short answers, and he'd get the job done. Is our final... You what? Anyone else like water? Want some water? Hopefully it's cold. Still have 6. Yeah? I still have 6. Okay. Did I lose Pete? Ah. Okay. He's not talking to that other lawyer, is he? Can you see through that window? No. Because if he is, he might never come back.
This is a separate item on the agenda, but then it falls under town business.
So?
But it's done, right?
What?
It's done. We're doing the town council interviews.
That's what we're doing, town council interviews.
Right, it's on there twice is what I'm saying.
Ah.
So I can cross that off?
Cross it off.
Double the fun.
Well, we're not going to do them again.
No, I know. I just wanted to make sure.
We're going to have to close the warrant tonight, so I would wait till Peter gets back. I'll make a motion to go past 10. Do it, get it ahead of time, because Rich may run into that.
Did he go walk his dog at the same time? No. No, it's not going to take that
We
long.
shouldn't go that far, past 10.
We'll be fine. Mr. Bowen is going to be very succinct. Oh, here we are. Did you take the dog for a walk, too? I did. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Bowen.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome. if you would take a few minutes to introduce yourself and explain why you and your firm are interested in being town council for the town of Wareham, please. And then the board will ask some questions.
Well, again, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board, for the opportunity to apply for the position. Thank you for having given me the opportunity to serve in the position for the last couple of years. It's been truly a great honor, and it's been a wonderful experience. I am here offering my services and those of John Whitten and his partner, Barbara Huggins. I propose to do the town council work, and John and Barbara would continue to do land use work. I should, just by way of background, I have 30 years of experience in municipal government. I've been a town council for almost 25 years. I was a senior partner at Kopelman and Page. I have served as a selectman for 6 years. I've been a moderator for 10 years. I was president of the Plymouth County Selectmen's Association. I had the pleasure of having Sarah Woods as my treasurer when I was president, just to go back in the Wayback Machine. I've served on the County Advisory Board. John Whitten has been a town planner for communities. He has been a selectman in the town of Duxbury. What I'm trying to tell you is that between myself, John, and Barbara, we represent a solid and experienced municipal team. Now, having had that experience as officials, having walked the miles in your shoes and gotten the bunions and the holes in the loafers, you come to realize some things that you wouldn't otherwise have happened to you. You realize what a difficult job it is to be a selectman or to be a town official. You realize the anxieties that each one of you go through if a phone call goes unanswered, a question goes unanswered. You realize that people can lie awake at night worrying about whether they're doing the right thing. And so out of the experience that we have and that realization of the issues that you face as persons in trying to do your job in the proper way, what we've tried to do is to craft a service to the town that reflects what your real needs are. Now, all three of the attorneys or firms that have applied for the position are good. If they weren't good, you wouldn't have invited the three to interview. And I think really the question that you have is deciding which of the three service styles best suits your needs. So it's going to be a philosophical question for you. The philosophy behind my way of practice, John's way of practice, Barbara's way of practice, is that we attempt to offer a hands-on experience for you, which draws on our legal experience and our experience as public officials, rather than a remote service. In our view, there's just no substitute for being here. You can provide memoranda, websites, all these things. They're wonderful tools, but they're not a substitute for actually sitting with you, becoming a member of the team, and finding out what it is you need. You know, if you want to be on, it's one thing to say you want to be a member of the team, but unless you actually show up on game day and take your swing at the plate or field the ground balls, you're not a member of the team. So what have I done and what has John done to try to be a member of your team? You know, on availability, with technology today, everyone is available 24/7. I have cell phones, land phones, fax machines. I think at one point I even had a teletype, but I threw that away. But, you know, all that stuff's out there. It's easy to say that you're available 24/7. But the real question is that when you get this midnight epiphany, as I call them, something that really is bugging you, and suppose you send an email to me at midnight, as some of you have. Haven't you gotten a reply by 1 a.m.? Well, okay, I can't promise that as a permanent service standard, but what I'm trying to say is that when you've reached out to me because you were in need, I've reached back to you. Be it by email, I return it. By telephone call, I return it. When you ask me to come to a meeting, I come. If it's on a Saturday morning, you don't have to say, Rich, are you going to be there? Rich is going to be there. So the service I propose is a hands-on service. Now, the essence of a hands-on service is doing office hours. Now, some denigrate office hours as being a series of what-if questions, speculative questions, time-wasting questions by department heads or officials that are foolish. You know, there's nothing wrong with asking what-if questions. In fact, what-if questions are among the most important questions that anyone can ask, because a series of what-if questions constitute policy thinking by town employees and officials about different options that are available to them. And to just dismiss them out of hand, when you do that, what you're really saying is, nah, I'm not all that interested in your thought process. I'm not really all that interested in where you're trying to go. We'll figure that out later. A hands-on service, a non-remote service, but a hands-on service is interested in what you are considering for policy. Now, that's not to say that I or John or Barbara have particular policy ideas. You should be doing this, you should be doing that. You know, when I have the honor of sitting with you at that table, and there's only 4 of you right now, I'm not sitting there as a 5th selectman. I've already been a selectman. I don't want to be a selectman again. I mean, God bless you for wanting to be selectman. I've done my tour of duty. I don't want to do it again. I'm sitting there as someone who's trying to listen carefully to what it is you're trying to achieve and to assist you in achieving it. And sure, if you embark on a particular policy that I think is going to be problematic, I'll say something to you. I may say it at the meeting. I might say it privately. But that's not being a 5th selectman. That's being engaged in advising the client so that the client can achieve what the voters elected you to do. So,
and I think there's a certain value to that, monetarily. As we keep talking about the binder, and I'm not going to talk about history with you because I didn't do that with the others, but you know, and I think there's a dollar number that you can put on that kind of advice.
well, thank you.
And we've benefited from some of that with our current town council, I think.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman.
And I'd like to kind of keep this
Yeah, I'll try to pick it up.
interactive, so
Yeah.
go ahead, and then I'd like Mr. Sullivan to ask his question.
You know, and
Well, him and Peter can share who goes first. It's up to you. You can flip a coin. Go ahead, Mr. Bourne, if you
Yeah.
want to finish.
I'll just sum up and say,
Sure.
you know, office hours are an absolutely key component to controlling problems, to being able to guide. I'll leave it to each one of you that's come in on office hours days. I'll leave it to Mr. Sullivan to evaluate in his own mind. But there is not a single week where we do office hours that we do not head off some potentially catastrophic problem. Problems that, had they gone forward, would have cost this town a huge amount of money. And just by virtue of being there, being able to listen to people, listen to their questions, their ideas, their fears, you're able to say, gosh, you know, really, please don't do that. I mean, I think more than once I've made, well, I won't say panic, but I'll say urgent phone calls to a particular department saying, hey, you know that thing you were about to do? You haven't done that yet. Good. Please stop now. Put it back in the drawer. Unless you're there, you can't do that. And, you know, you're choosing between different service modes. And from my own experience as an official, from my own experience in being a senior partner in a very large law firm, you know, I urge you to think about a service mode that is engaged and that truly is part of the team. I'll just sum up by saying that I try to offer a value-added service. I've never billed you for any litigation matters. I can tell you that I have put in scores of hours on cases such as the Sylvester, some of the Don Bliss cleanup issues. We have a new eminent domain case, the Tam Young case. I could bill you for that stuff. I don't. I don't because there's a job to be done here, and I can do the job within the means that you've given me. Yes, I'm in this to make a living. I'm not in this to make a lavish living. So just to sum up, you know who I am. You know who John is. You know, John has been doing council work for the town for years. I know there's some question about, you know, whether one particular mode keeps you from bringing in special counsel work. I can tell you that John Whitten has been your special counsel for 10 or 15 years and has enjoyed the satisfaction of the board. We want to work for you. We think we can offer you a model that works for the town best, that has value added, and that in the long haul prevents more expense than any other model that you would work with. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you guys flip a coin? You know, let Derek go? Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney Bowen, this is the question that it's going to seem redundant after what you've just said, but one of the things I've asked the attorneys tonight is, besides just the fee, what are you bringing that would save the town money, save costs, save issues before we go down, as I was saying before, the windy roads?
Well, Mr. Administrator, I think by virtue of being constructively engaged with town officials, that puts myself, that puts John Whitten in a position to save you money by heading off problems before they're created. And, you know, it's not always an obvious thing. Problems don't walk in the door with a big sign tied around their neck saying problem. You have to be there to pick up some of the nuance and to be able to investigate. And I think by doing office hours, by coming to your board meetings, I'm in a position to do that. And I respectfully, I know this doesn't sound humble, but you know, I respectfully submit that I think that saves the town a lot of money.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes, well, as I said to Attorney Mayo, who preceded you, he too spoke about basically what I describe as a prophylactic approach to keep the client out of trouble rather than spend your time in court dealing with the trouble that could have been avoided. We've seen a lot in the past of the latter. Recently, we've seen a lot less, and that pleases me no end. And one thing I think that's interesting in your proposal also is the continued services of Attorney Whitten. One of the things you didn't mention was his involvement with the environmental firm of Horsley and Whitten that I don't think is currently engaged doing environmental work for us, but I have experience with in my own personal practice, and it's a good company. And he's a good land use lawyer. He knows his stuff. So there's some value to that. I understand, going back several years, that our land use boards have expressed a strong preference for continuing to work with him, and this predates your direct affiliation with him. And so, you know, I listen to these things, and they're all factors that are going to weigh into how I decide. But that's not for tonight. That's for another time. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for keeping your presentation very brief. Out of respect for the hour, I'm going to need a motion in about 50 seconds.
Mr. Barrows will let us know.
He will. Absolutely. And you've said essentially what I expected you to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go any further, I would ask that we extend until we finish through at least closing the special town meeting warrant.
Actually, Mr. Chair, we need to complete both items B and E under number 8 town business
Okay.
tonight. Sorry.
Sorry, didn't see number E. Sleepy.
Okay. Motion made.
Second.
Second. Question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain. 4-0-0. Mr. Slade.
I've had the experience and the pleasure of working with town council before I became a selectman, where I was asking questions that maybe didn't fit with the administration at the time, and after. And it's been an invaluable help to be able to come and ask someone a question who'll give you an answer that may not be what you want to hear, but will tell you the correct way to do it. I have a little different philosophy. Is I don't want to know how to get around something. I want to make sure I do it the right way. And that's what I appreciate more than anything else. Working with town council, I really don't have anything to ask because I've had experience since April. And if I haven't got a good idea what I'm getting, then I'm doing something wrong. So thank you. You've been a good friend.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Winslow.
Mr. Chairman, I have no questions. Thank you.
Wow. See? It works to get close to the hour of 10, doesn't it? I want to ask you, you've addressed some of this, so if your answer's short, I can live with that. And again, I've tried not to address any history with the group. But my question lends itself to attendance at Board of Selectmen meetings, and the office hours that town council has made available over the last year or so to Mr. Sullivan, to the department heads, and to the boards and commissions during the week. And I guess it's a philosophy. You talked about hands-on, or a philosophy which I happen to agree with. But I'd like you to either agree with that philosophy or not, and what do you think the best benefit of using that philosophy is to the town?
I do agree with the philosophy. I look forward to coming to the meetings. I really look forward to office hours. I never know what's going to walk in the door. It can be a challenge, but it goes back to something I said at the beginning, which is if you want to be a member of the team, you have to show up on game day. Game day happens here when you have a meeting. Game day happens at town hall during the week. You just have to be there.
And let's not forget town meeting, the moderator is sitting in the back. She's smiling now.
Yeah, well, town meeting.
Because what a lot of people don't know is that town council provides services to the moderator as well. And maybe next year, well, it is a Board of Selectmen decision. I was going to say maybe next year you could sit and ask questions too, but a lot of services are provided to the moderator in terms of articles, town meeting, process, procedure, etc.
Madam Moderator and I sit down every week getting ready for town meeting. Every week. And that's a tribute to your moderator. Trying to refine articles, trying to improve the flow of things. And again, this is a tribute to the moderator to streamline. And yeah, a lot goes into it, but I think we're seeing the fruit from all that effort.
Okay, very good. Anything from the board? Final comments, Mr. Bowen? Anything?
I'll just sum up again by saying thank you very much.
You're not going to read that whole page again, are you?
No.
Because Mr. Barrows would jump up and slap you in the back of the head.
Well, I know how Mr. Barrows works, so I got my eye on it.
We take no prisoners, do we, Mr. Barrows? That's right. It's 10 o'clock. Move it along.
I'll move it along by saying thank you for the opportunity to apply, and thank you for having given me the opportunity to serve. I mean it quite sincerely.
Thank you for applying, and thank you for keeping your comments succinct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if you would, leave that chair and go back into your other chair, because now we're ready to do the warrant.
All
Right, Mrs. Winslow? Are we up? The last two items, right?
Yeah, I was going to do the seasonal renewal certification because I just
Whatever
found
you'd
it.
like to do first, go right ahead.
I move to approve the seasonal renewal certification
Second.
for
Motion
2013.
made. Second question, favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400. That's done.
Yeah, I missed it in the folder, so.
That was quick.
Yes. Okay.
Don't blink.
I move to close the warrant of the Town of Wareham Special Town Meeting scheduled for April 22nd, 2013 in the Wareham High School Auditorium.
1 second. Is there any other discussion on this warrant before we do that? I'll
Perhaps
ask the moderator as well. So we don't close something that there's a question. Just want to make sure, like we did with the other one. Madam Moderator, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
You came right up like you were ready.
I was ready.
Okay.
At your last meeting, when you talked about the annual meeting warrant, you had a question about one of the articles that was on it, and that was the stabilization fund for the Upper Cape.
Oh, yes,
you know?
yes.
And you sort of put it off to your special town meeting, and I believe you wanted to check with council and discuss that. So before you close the warrant, I think it's something you want to talk about. Because you did have a question about it.
We moved it on to the special because
We wanted to avoid litigation.
we wanted to avoid litigation. Because when we looked at the Chapter 71, it looks like if they vote on it and we don't act on it, then we sort of lose our ability to, so. And Attorney Bowen had mentioned the week before he went away that we either, I couldn't hear him because the meeting was going on, but either couldn't or shouldn't, it was one of those two words, take it off the warrant. So was it couldn't or shouldn't?
I hope it was couldn't.
It's possible, Attorney Bowen. I couldn't, but what I heard was don't take it off the warrant. So
That sounds like me.
But we did move it to the special because it's not. It's a request for a stabilization fund. It's not a fund that currently exists, and we also believe that if passed by the 4-member towns, then doesn't it have to go? Does that one go to a ballot too, to the general population on a regular election, or no?
Mr. Chairman, on that one, I don't know if it would go to a ballot question, but your comments about 71 are spot on. There has in the past been litigation involving regional school districts where articles were not put on. That was the source of my concern, and I think you're putting it on the special warrant satisfies all legal requirements.
Okay, great. Okay. Was that all, Madam Moderator?
That's
or-
all I had.
Okay.
Is that all you had?
That's all I had. I just wanted to be sure before you closed it that you did talk about that.
Mr. Sullivan, any commentary on the special before Mrs.
No.
Winslow
The-
makes her motion?
I think the only addition on there was the community events article is on there.
It's on
So
there?
It's on there.
Outside.
Okay.
Peter, anything? Nothing. Alan?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I move to
Yeah.
close the warrant of the.
Hang on a second. Rich, you've reviewed it? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
I just want to cover all bases before you make that, because once you make that motion,
It's
so.
Mhm.
Okay.
I move to close the warrant of the Town of Wareham Special Town Meeting scheduled for April 22nd, 2013, Wareham High School Auditorium, Viking Drive, Wareham, Mass. at 7:30 p.m. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Plymouth, to either of the constables of the Town of Wareham, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the legal voters of the town qualified to vote in town affairs to meet in the Wareham High School Auditorium, Viking Drive, Wareham, Mass. on Monday, April 22nd, 2013 at 7:30 p.m. to act on the following articles. Articles included in this warrant are numbered 1 through 17. Given under our hands this 19th day of March in the year 2013, the Wareham Board of Selectmen, Stephen M. Holmes, Kara A. Winslow, Alan H. Slavin, and Peter Teitelbaum.
Second.
A motion made by Mrs. Winslow, seconded by Mr. Titlebaum. Anything else on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 4-0-0.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there
What?
anything else from anybody before we adjourn?
No, I'll wait till next week. There's a lot of meetings and a lot of special meetings both Peter and I have gone to.
Okay.
And information should come to the board.
Anything that has to be done tonight, Alan?
No, I think,
Peter?
no.
Kara?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Derek?
No,
All
Mr.
set?
Chair.
Rich? Anything? All right. Just want to make sure.
Second motion.
Thank you.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Good night, and thank you very much for your indulgence. Actually, we did very well to get all that in by 10:10. So have a great night, and thank you for watching, and have a great day tomorrow. Bye-bye.